Hello, folks. Okay, we can find my save. Been doing so much testing this week, so much coding, crazy amounts of coding. Also, I'm hoping I have the right mods loaded right now because of that. All right, well, I didn't get any errors, so that's good. Sound check. How we sounding? Game volume. Well, I guess I can't check the game volume yet. You will in a second. Oh yeah, nighttime coffee. Voice is good. Game is a bit loud. All right, I'll turn it down a little bit. I wasn't sure where I had the volume. I had turned it way down the other day because something I was testing. I had to keep leaving the game running in the background, and so the sound was irritating me just because I can only handle so much follow background noise when I'm trying to get other work done. And I turned the volume down way low. Then today I didn't remember where it was supposed to be. Alright, we'll turn it down to about there. I guess we'll find out when let's go find someone to talk to. That should give us an indication of where we're at. Where's Preston? He's always got garbage to say. Oh no, we'll talk to Sturgis here. Oh yeah, you want to do the quest? Sure, we'll do this.
I'd be glad to help.
Let's see how this volume is, guys.
Well, for starters, we could use some real beds. We've been sleeping on the ground for too long. Just make sure we can sleep with a roof over our heads. Some of these old houses still look solid enough to do the trick. There's a workbench over there you can use. Give me a holler if you need anything.
So how was Sturgis's volume there, guys? Instantly completed the bed sheltering. I'm glad that still works. I was worried I had broke the integration. Oh, poor Sturgis. He's got a disease. Huh? Their voices are a bit soft. Yeah, I thought it might be the case. All right, let's turn up the volume a little bit. Let's put it right back where it was. I think maybe it was just maybe the main menu volume was just a little much.
I like it. Having a place to sleep will improve everyone's
JC One Word. Howdy, sir. I've got to say the work ethic you have. Let's see, you have to something that is more or less a hobby is something else to the team too. Thank you. It's funny you say that. You guys are going to catch me in rare form today. I've had a rough day, which doesn't. I'm usually the type I don't like to talk about like that sort of thing. Like to me, like my personal life is my personal life, and I try not to bring it to work, and I try not to bring it to this. But today was a rough one. I warned Foxel, who will be joining me later, that today had some crises that tested my patience, pushed it to the limit. But I still wanted to stream tonight because this is important. I don't want this to become a secondary thing. Like if I'm out of town, I have no choice. I can't do it. But otherwise, I want to make it work. I guess I can think of a few different reasons I might not do streaming. One would be I'm out of town. Two would be I'm like deadly ill. Like I am not a fun person when I'm really sick. Like I just need to sleep a lot. And then probably like a family crisis, like one of my kids is in the ER or death in the family or something. But yeah, today was the closest I got to be like maybe I should cancel because I knew I was going to be in an impatient mood. But then I remembered that on my stream, I'm in charge, so there's nobody who can really bring my mood down. And I imagine that if anybody comes along and trolls in chat, you guys will destroy them because you always do on the forums. Whenever somebody comes in with too much negativity, everybody jumps on their shit, which is always fun to see. Though on that note, I've said this to others before, is that I actually like reading negativity on the forums as long as it's framed critically as opposed to just like people being d-bags, because that's good. Like there's a post going right now for those of you guys who played Conqueror who had played it a bunch in the past, requesting you guys to tell me all the bad things about Conqueror because I'm in the middle of doing a recode of everything bringing in at SS2. So reading all that bad stuff about Conqueror is great because it helps me out to make better decisions for the porting. Let's see, Z Game. So will today's stream have some Fallout? I mean, I hope we play some Fallout. I mean, we're gonna play a little bit of Sturgis right now, just for testing
Clean
volume.
water coming up.
Great. Thanks again.
Oh, I need water. Am I short on water? Oh, no, it finished instantly probably while I was talking to him.
Hey, Sturgis.
I feel better already, knowing we have a reliable supply of clean water. I hope you don't mind me asking for some more help, but our food supplies are running low. If we're gonna settle here, we'll need to get some crops established.
I'll start planting right away.
Good deal.
All right.
Hey, Sturgis.
This place is starting to feel
I
like
am
home.
I'm the fastest farmer in the
Now that we
West.
can grow our own food, I think we can really make a go of this. Trouble is, The more we establish ourselves here, the more of a target we become. What we need is to get some defenses set up. Then maybe Preston will be able to relax a little bit.
Z Games. Well, I hope. I mean, there's nothing that bad, that bad in real life. Like that's why, like I said, if it was a family tragedy, it'd be one thing. This is just a whole lot of just crap hit me at once in the day, and I was like, oh man, this is bumming me out. I could tell when my patience was stretched thin when I was getting irritated that losing at a card game against my kid. Like normally I don't care. Like I'm not. I can be competitive in games. Try me in Magic the Gathering and I start losing, I get very angry because I very much enjoy winning that game, and I like outthinking people. So losing at he's a 4-year-old. We do not play very advanced card games. So when I was like getting irritated that he was beating me, I was like, okay, clearly it's rubbing off on me. My patience is thin, or I would have found something else to entertain myself with the game other than the game itself. If that makes sense. Usually that's how I get past that little bit of a desire to win at games and take them seriously, is if it's a game I don't want to care, like if I'm playing with my kids or something, then I find something else entertaining about it. I don't know, I'll get excited for my kid who's winning, or do something else to like the game isn't about the game, it's about something else around the game. I don't know how to describe it, but that's usually how I play games with my kids. And today I was just I just really wanted to win. We were playing War. I don't know if you guys know what War is. It's the dumbest card game there is. I think War was designed to occupy children, because it takes so long to actually win a game of War. Your kid is supposed to win. See, I think your kid should win about 30% of the time. You want them to win, but you don't want to make it so easy that they get bored, or that when they lose, then they don't know how to lose properly. I think, and that number is a scientific thing. It's they've learned this from watching from animal studies and stuff. Is that around it's 30 to 35% keeps people coming back. It's the same thing you'll look at most game companies, or when they're balancing their multiplayer, they tend to they don't want the winning people, the best players, to be winning more than about 60% of the time, because if you get too close to that, when people start losing in the 40-50% range, or in the 65 to 70% range, they get bored of the game. They feel like it's impossible, and so I try to use those numbers because I've studied a lot of game design. I'm I bet that applies to kids, and I am positive it does after experiencing it. So that's my goal, is I want my kid to win about 30% of the time, and I will throw a game if I have to, just to make sure it keeps him interested. But I do not believe in the kids get to win all the games. That is nonsense. Oscar Fry. So question: what caused the bug in 2.1.1 where SS2 wouldn't launch on a second save? What was that? Oh, so I'm working on the 3.0 code right now. So I'm doing a lot of deep dive stuff in the code to get prepped for the 3.0 changes, which are major. There's just not major changes to the gameplay loop, but major new stuff coming. And I started doing some prep work for it, and one of the changes made it so that Jake couldn't detect you building a settlement anymore. And so I had to fix that. So a lot of the code changes for 3.0, they're already going to be in place in these patches. That's the only way I can do it. This code base is so big. My choice is always either to stop patching 4 months before a major patch, or I just have to sneak the stuff in throughout development, which is what I've been doing since we launched some settlements. I always sneak stuff in for the next expansion. Oh, it's 9 o'clock already. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. So we were just dinking around with Sturgis there while I was venting about my day. I'm getting ready to go for this. If you're new to the stream, this is what I got to tell you. I have a terrible attention span, and my thoughts will wander between subjects, so I tend to just keep as many distractions out of my way as possible by not paying attention to chat until the end of the stream. So usually about halfway through at about 10:30ish, I switch gears and then go into talk mode. So then I'm not paying attention to the game, and instead I'm paying attention to you guys. And many days I have a guest, including today. We've got Foxel. He's the one who released the mod Rags to Riches, or Rags and Riches, which is an add-on pack for some settlements, and is constantly working on more stuff on our dev server. I recently put out a call to any add-on pack authors who want to get on here and join me. I'd love to talk to them. Because I think after talking to Carve, I realized it's really cool to hear the perspective of people who've spent a lot of time building for this mod. So I'm going to have a few different add-on pack authors on over the next month, and we're going to have a chat with them. So that will start around 10:30, and that's also when I'll start engaging with chat. And it kind of becomes, if you've never seen one of this part of my stream, that part is more like, it's kind of like a part podcast, part talk show interaction with the audience, like a radio show almost, like where I'll go to you guys for questions and we'll just hang out and BS with the guest and between each other. But before that, we're going to play through some of Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Now, if you want to get my attention at any time, make sure you @ King Gath on there, because chat, I fall way behind on chat, so my only hope to try and catch up is to look for messages who are explicitly trying to get my attention, so @ King Gath. And if you want to guarantee that I see your message, if you want to throw some money at the mod, I do not keep super chat money. I just put it in a pool that we use for expenses on the mod. So there's a lot of expenses to running this mod. We have all the different servers we're running for tools for the community and for our forums, and then we pay for like Discord bots, and there's just all sorts of random expenses that come up, and that helps pay for that. So if you want to jump the queue, super chat is where it's at. Oh, that rhyme, didn't even mean to do it. But with all that said, let's get into the fun stuff. So we're gonna not probably do any of these defend quests. Although I think I think they auto fail eventually. I can't remember. But we are gonna sleep here soon. Or maybe we'll go around and teleport it to those, and that will be enough to trigger a bunch of the time passing that we need to happen, because we finished the battle for GNN last time and it went surprisingly smooth. And I showed you guys what happens whether you choose Aiden or Jake. And so we ended up with Jake, and we let Mr. Berman live, because there's a part of the ending of Chapter 2 that I think is better if Berman's alive. Now, where the hell did Sturgis go? Do I not? Oh, I guess I could track that. There he is. Oh, he was right over here.
Thanks for doing that. We'll all sleep better at night knowing we
Zio Ormer, thank you for the huge donation. And he says thank you for your, or I guess it's, they say thank you for your hard work. Thank you so much for that donation. That's awesome.
Feels good.
Yeah, I don't think that's awesome. That will cover some stuff. So thank you very much. And yeah, I guess I'm at a loss for words. Thank you so much.
I was glad to help.
Well, I appreciate it. Of course, you know you're welcome anytime. My door's always open to you. Windows too. Some of the walls actually, come to think of it.
John Geddes, I started the CPD quest before completing pick up the pieces. The one replacing Mr. Jack, will that mess up the later game? No, it's fine. You can do CPD anytime. That's no problem. I mean, other than from what I understand of talking to beta testers and snooping on the forums, the CPD has got the most bugs in it of any of the parts of our quest line so far. So you might run into issues, but those will have nothing to do with you doing it earlier. Those are just because the CPD is cursed. It went through a rough time in development, and since I was not involved with development, I'm very, very afraid to mess with it, because for some people it works great, some people it doesn't. We'll get there eventually. We'll get it all sorted out. I'm sure some people who have access to to our Git repo. So we have a special Git repo. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a coders thing for managing code, and also it's an issue tracker, and we use that for our issue tracker for SS2. And a lot of people have access to it on our team, our beta testers, any of our developers, and then people who we flag as community rock stars. So people who basically are really helpful in the community and everything, we give them access to that. And they were probably very surprised to see this week that I cleared out a bunch of tickets that were like 8 months old. That is how long it can take for me to get to everything, because there's just so much stuff to do. Show on map. Why is that? Oh, these don't have map markers. That's interesting. So now I got to remember where all these settlements are. Well, that's probably good. Good exercise. All right, let's go to County Crossing and kick some butt. Keldian, have you had anyone give feedback on playing Sim Settlements on a Steam Deck? No, but that sounds awesome. I actually I put my $5 down to get for the Steam Deck because I want to try one. I don't know if I'll actually buy it. Like, it'll depend on how busy I am, but I love Nintendo Switch, so you know, the idea of getting all my Steam games on a Switch type device sounds pretty sweet. And I wonder if all the gunners are over there fighting random dudes. Let's see. Yep, that is what it looks like. There we go. Oh god. Let's get out of... I'll stand in the open. Alright, maybe we have a chance to snipe. I don't know why didn't I pull out my sniper rifle? What's wrong with me? Ooh, she's a powerful one too. Yeah, fight the settlers. Oh, they must have plugged them all. Oops. Well, I can still kill him. Failed or not. Man, I love the sound of this thing. Alright, what am I thinking? I got no. Come on, give me some. Get him, doggo. Can't see anything. There's too much fire and too much radiation. Oh god. Yeah, why do I have no shotgun shells? What's going on here? We do have Jet. Hey, buddy. Oh. And how many? Oh my god, there's so many. You guys really wanted County Crossing, and it's 2 settlers and 12 crops or whatever it's got. I can hear somebody over here. Here we go. I'm just spamming and getting lucky. This is my Fallout no scoping at work here. Who's still alive?
Something's out there.
Hey, I'll take the level up. Thank you. Not that I'm using perks or anything on any regular basis. Oh, you're inside there. And up close. There we go. Well, we lost the quest, but irrelevant. They're all dead, and we're alive. I think I have these little raids set up to be that if your settlers all get knocked down, you lose it, like from the quest section, but they're not set to mortal. I'm not brave enough to put settlers on mortal for you guys automatically. That's always gonna, like, I think for Conqueror we had it off, and for FDS's 2 implementation of those same mechanics will probably make it optional. It'll be like, hey, do you want to make this really hardcore? The problem is like, it's so like AI combat is so unreliable. Like, that's one of the pieces of feedback people are giving on Conqueror is that you know, their soldiers always feel like cannon fodder. So like they barely, like, there's a level up system for Conqueror where your soldiers could level up, and like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I forgot that exists, because my guys are so squishy that seeing them live is almost impossible, which I agree with, and hope to have some solutions to that. Oh no, don't drink the water. Gross. Just give me the loot. Really after some shotgun shells here. Not so much. Oh, there's moving day. It would trigger eventually. Hey, Jason Lokrantz, thank you so much for the donation. SS2 is the only thing that consistently peels me away from Elden Ring, so thank you and the team for all your efforts. That is high praise. I love me some Elden Ring. That is one of the greatest games I've ever played now. Like, at first, I was like super pissed about it, because I've never been a Souls player. I've never enjoyed the hardcore stuff. But then once I just embraced some of the cheese and just enjoyed the game for its exploration, oh my god, is it good. So good. So, high praise. Thank you for saying that. Alright, let's see. Do we bother? I kind of want to like finish what we started here and go clear this, but there's so many. I think we'll just get them as we go. What's the next one closest to there? I think Tappington's kind of on the way. We'll just hit him on the way over. Where is Tappington? I feel like it's right over here somewhere. I know it's back over here. Okay. Sorry, guys. At Tappington, you're going to have to suffer for a little longer. We're heading to Gunner's Plaza. Opening up the Pip-Boy interrupts the drinking animation. Oh, interesting. So today somebody sent me a save file they were having trouble with let's see, I can see there being gunner respawns or something here. Someone sent me a save file they were having trouble with, and it was with the two-way radio. Maybe some of you guys have had this too. Ooh, it's still alive out here. Raiders, okay. Just random spawns. With the two-way radio where it was getting them stuck, and I couldn't get out of the... Oh. And they have some sort of mod that's messing with a animation variable, and so I was testing animation mods today, trying to figure out what could it be for that person, because I assume others of you guys have it as well, and couldn't figure it out. But I got to try out this animation framework where you eat and drink everything. It was really cool. Slow motion snipe. Okay. Now, do any more of you have? So that guy has some shotgun shells. What about the rest of you? There we go. Hello, Teresa. Wait, what's going on here? There's supposed to be a... Oh, I forgot to listen to the frequency. Ha! I just knew what was coming. Well, at least she's out there where she's supposed to be for it. So we'll go ahead and quickly listen to this, just in case. Sometimes I try to make it so those frequencies you can skip, but I don't. Not all of the quests allow it. Some of them you have to listen to it.
Something I need to talk to you about. Buddy, what are you doing up there? You want to brace him? You don't got all, Doc.
Sorry, I'm just setting something up.
Well, if we're all still in one piece by the time we get here, I'll meet you in the atrium by the big globe thing. See you soon.
This has been a pre-recorded message. Message repeats in 3 seconds.
So that in that little radio drama, well, another Sci-Virus special, you can hear like something going on in the background, and there's actually supposed to be more to that when you get there, and I ended up not implementing it exactly how Surik wanted, because the and I'll explain it when we get to the point. If I forget to, you guys remind me to talk about what was going on in that radio tape, because there's something that's missing from... There's actually two things missing from a moment we're about to get to. Excuse me. And they're on my list to go back and add. Just like they were like things that were going to take a lot of time to develop. And as we get closer to the launch of a chapter, we just start cutting stuff. It's like that can go, that can go, that can go, and then we just put it all on a big to-do list and slowly get back to it over time. Like that's why periodically you'll see patch notes of me messing with quests from chapter 1 still, because it's like I'm like, yeah, I need to sit down and do that. Like we took the time to make resource assets for it, or we took the time to write some dialogue and get it recorded. So I'm slowly iterating back through everything. All right, let's go talk to Teresa.
Hi.
Hey, Fancy Pants.
Why are you here?
Oh, that was a dick way to ask.
For a while, but
sometimes the tones of the player lines, I don't think don't give the exact intent that the writers were hoping.
This feels like where I'm meant to be right now.
What are you doing out here all by yourself?
Just needed some fresh air. Was getting a bit too stuffy inside the plaza.
How are you?
What are you, like,
yeah, some
kind of wasteland shrink or something? But if you gotta know, I'm doing good. So, thanks for asking, I guess.
See you around.
Later.
I see you guys talking about SS1 versus SS2. Yeah, if you're new to Sim Settlements, skip SS1. SS2 basically is what SS1 was meant to be. SS1 is kind of like a draft version. It was really fun to build. A lot of people loved it, but I think it's pretty well universally agreed that SS2 improves on the formula in every way. And it has its own issues, but it's like SS1, the code is so slow that, I leave it up there because some people really love Conqueror and that's not available. And I'll probably never take away SS1. It's fine as is. It works. It's just slow. So like a lot of the things that you do with it on a moment-to-moment basis will feel really clunky, and that's just because I didn't know Papyrus well enough, which is the scripting language for Fallout 4. So a lot of the systems in it are not ideal, and they've been improved dramatically in SS2, and they're just much deeper in SS2, and you get all the story content too. SS1 has very little story content unless you play Conqueror.
It's fine. In fact, it's better than fine. Don't ask me how or why, but the gun is actually finished repairing it. And they even started adding some upgrades.
What sort of upgrades are we talking about?
Well, I'm not entirely sure. The upgrades look to be unfinished. Although I did notice all the new parts seem to be Vaultec brand, which did have me a bit concerned. But I've double-checked everything. and there doesn't seem to be anything nefarious installed. So I see no reason not to leave the upgrades where they are. Maybe we could even try turning them on at some point.
That's great news.
Part of me was dreading finding the hub, thinking what the gunners might have done to it. But turns out they were busy making it even better. That kind of brings me to the next thing I want to talk to you about. You see, I think we should stay here, in the plaza.
Okay. Care to elaborate?
Well, think about it.
I still got that stupid
It's got
helmet on.
real
I've had it on the
hardwood
whole
floor.
game. I think that was the one
It's
Jake
glow
gave
and
me.
see adjacent. It's certainly a step up from the hardware store. And I don't suppose you've noticed what's on top of this place?
You tell me.
Well, on the plaza's roof is a huge antenna. It probably used to beam news to every home in the Commonwealth. It's got a massive broadcast range, something the gunners made good use of.
Sounds useful.
Now you connect something like the plaza antenna to the comm hub, and you got yourself a match made in heaven. With the gunners gone, we'd be fools not to use this place ourselves. That's why I think we should move our operation here. Begin to really scale things up. Maybe even start bringing in outside help. With a little effort, we could turn this place into a real headquarters.
Why is that so important?
Have you ever tried using a weed whacker to mow some grass? I mean, you can do it, but it ain't really the best tool for the job. Now, my setup in Concord, that's the weed whacker, while the plaza antenna, that's the souped-up lawnmower with all the bells and whistles. If we moved here, we could really start doing a lot more.
I don't see how that helps us. We already have an HQ.
Don't get me wrong, the hardware store served us well. But when I first started using that place, no one knew who I was or what I was doing. Since then, we had to deal with raiders, gunners, random folks dropping by as they please. The place just ain't secure no more. But this plaza, we could really do something here. Start building something bigger, better.
I think he was irritated with Randy at Concord. Always running into his shop, just hanging out.
It sounds like just what we need right now.
I knew you'd be on the same page. And this'll let us do some cool stuff. Let me show you what I mean. Follow me.
Yes, this is Wes's armor I'm wearing. I actually talked about it when I picked it up, is that we should add on a alternate material to get rid of that symbol on there, since that's Wes's, like,
My guess is
his
they were in a
squad.
rush. Or maybe they just didn't care.
Uh-oh.
With their leader gone, I suppose we'll never know the reason why.
Why are you choosing that path?
Anyway, after a little
There we
tinkering around, me and Lupe figured that we could do a better job integrating the hub with the antenna. And after a little trial and error, and a lot of new parts, that's precisely what we did.
Huh, I've never had him take the left over here. He always goes on the right for me. But I did find out, this is one of the things that, so I have a list of, like, stuff I have to do before I release a patch. It's like it's a ton of steps on patch day. Patch day ends up being like a multi-hour process, which is why you guys only get it every 2 weeks. Like, if it was quick, I would probably do them weekly. But I mean, other than I like to have people giving time to test. But beyond that, it's also just the amount of time it takes. And one of the steps I have to do now is anytime I do anything that involves GNN, I have to, like, regenerate the precombines and fix the nav mesh and set this flag for letting you to fast travel out. So if you ever find that something's broken in GNN, like you can't fast travel out again, it means I probably forgot to do one of my pre-release steps.
So, without
please let me
further
know.
ado, allow me to introduce what we've dubbed the comm array.
This thing is so beautiful. This was made by a guy who helped us out with a bunch of art, Jonathan, and I cannot say his last name for the life of me. I think it looks like Camacho, but I don't know. I don't think that's what it is. But anyway, Jonathan did this awesome design for the comm array. Love this piece of equipment. And then Sebo took it and created all sorts of crazy animations with it. Have you ever wondered why you can play with all this stuff? It was because Sebo, who I always call our technical animator, just had fun with it. Just added all sorts of cool little things you can play with. We'll probably use it for like a quest puzzle in Chapter 3 or something, like something where you have to like fix something with the comm array. But most of that stuff is just for fun to tinker with.
Well, what do you think?
Valenov, thank you for the donation. If I recall correctly, Lupe is supposed to give a gift in this quest. Makes me really sad every time I don't get it. Is that on the to-do list? Yep, that is one of those, one of the two things I mentioned that was cut for time. I actually have all the details written down for what the gift is, and I just have to make it and put it in. Spoiler alert, it's a plasma rifle. It's another named one. It's kind of like the Margaret you get from Old Paul. We like giving those as gifts because they don't require our team to create a bunch of new assets, and they give you something you can mount on your wall or just use for a little bit if it happens to be better than what you got. But yeah, just a little thing she busts out for you, and that will get added in the future. I have all the specs and I know what I have to do with it. It's just there are bigger fish to fry, I'll say. Let's see. Hey Gal Comics, thank you for the donation. Interesting choice of numbers there. Love Chapter 2. Any thoughts on adding a legendary effect to the unique weapon that Old Paul gave the player? Oh, followed that terms. I think the Old Paul weapon is set up incorrectly. I know it's supposed to be a very, very powerful hunting rifle. As far as unique effects to those, I don't think we're going to do that just because I feel like that's not in our wheelhouse. We're not weapon designers. Like, I can ask Nihar about doing stuff like that. He's the weapon designer on there. But like, you know, our primary focus is on story and, and then the mechanical gameplay elements. But like a lot of stuff like weapons, we don't spend a whole lot of time deep diving on. I've tried on multiple occasions to recruit someone to help with balance type stuff, to figure that stuff out. People who really care about all the numbers that go into combat and everything, and I have yet to have any luck. But that kind of is what I feel like we need to before we'd really worry about creating weapons that are... Because the other problem with like weapon mods and stuff, or even these kind of weapons, is if we make them too good, then they make everything else irrelevant. If we make them too bad, they're useless. And if we make them in the middle, you're probably not going to use them either. So it's kind of like we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. So really, to me, the best thing to do is unique art. But that goes way beyond the scope just because we have limited resources, right? It's like making custom weapons is very expensive for the team. Like, as far as it takes up file space for Xbox players, takes up the time of our limited art team, and you know, making weapons is hard. So that's why we tend to do just simple. It's just the names can end up being a thing. It's a keepsake more than anything else.
What I've seen so far is pretty impressive.
Really? You're not just being polite, are you? Hey, you should try connecting your Pip-Boy to it. Just connect your adapter plug to the port there. Go ahead, it won't bite. Nicely done. You just upgraded your Pip-Boy's firmware. Thanks to a little creative programming by yours truly, your Pip-Boy now has a direct link to the comm array. Which means... Are you kidding me? Again? This has got to be the 4th time today.
5th, I think.
How many times do I have to tell him? At this point, he's got to be doing it on purpose.
What's going on?
Sorry, I'll just be a minute. I gotta go take care of something.
The light leak on that hurts my soul. Come on, Bethesda. Come on. Go. What are you doing, Jake? Oh, did you break? What are you doing? Oh no, he's just trying to find a path and he can't. Yeah, see, I think I screwed up the nav mesh in this latest. I'm using the beta build for Friday's patch, and I'm guessing the nav mesh is all funky in here, so I'll have to go in and fix that. Come on, Jake, you can do it. Or I wonder if dog meat's in the way. Come here, dog meat. Yeah, you're messing up pathing. I usually don't test with a companion. That's probably also why he ran to the left too. I bet companion or the dog meat was blocking his path the other way.
Aiden! Aiden! What did I say about firing that turret?
I love their relationship so much.
With all this trash everywhere, you're gonna start a fire.
Dog meat.
Hey,
just stay.
Wait there.
Into the latch wiring? Do you have any idea how dangerous that is?
I don't answer to you. Besides, it's not my fault. I asked you to fix me up a generator hours ago.
Well, I'm sorry, but I've had more important things to do than help you play with guns.
What's this all about?
After I shared my plan for us to move in here, Aiden decided he wanted to stay as well. I said that was fine, providing he followed the rules.
Your rules, not mine. And just who put you in charge anyway? You can barely keep the lights on.
I never said I was in charge. But, well, someone's got to give the orders around here.
And that someone is you, is it?
Well, it sure as hell ain't gonna be you.
Be patient. You'll work it out.
Huh. You know, I wouldn't actually mind taking orders if it was from someone like you.
For once, I think I might agree with Aiden. You would make a good leader. And if we're gonna turn this place into a real headquarters, we're gonna need someone who can make the big decisions. I know this is rather sudden, but, well, I don't suppose you'd be interested in leading this place.
Not crazy. How about putting Shandy in charge? Oh, that's hilarious. I could see making him recruitable as an option, like just as like why not send him to HQ and then you could put him in charge of a department if you wanted. I don't think we'd do all the dialogue for him because the person that we got to record Shandy, that probably is not. I doubt we're going to get them to come back. That they're a professional VA. Like if you go look at their credits, you'll see they've got quite the list of games and cartoons under their belt. But that would be kind of funny. Like I found people sent me screenshots that apparently you can send Cola to HQ to be a worker, which is a bug, but it's a funny bug that I haven't bothered to fix because I'm like, whatever. It's nice to have Cola at HQ. Like she's not supposed to be a worker, and we'll fix that later. But yeah. By the way, if you're experimenting with this part of the quest, somebody asked this in our Patreon Discord, and I knew what would happen, but I didn't know the extent of what would happen afterward. If you go through all this stuff and you decide not to become HQ leader, it's meant to be a moment where you can pause the quest line. You can be like, all right, well, I'm not ready to do HQ stuff yet. I want to go play the rest of the game for a bit and then come back and do this. It turns out if you do that, the only way you can get that conversation to trigger currently is if Jake and Aiden happen to be sandboxing near each other, because they're both part of this conversation. The conversation won't actually start unless they're next to each other. I have a solution in mind, but it probably won't have it in until until the patch after this Friday. So not until. So this next patch is going to be 2.12. The next patch will be 2.13. That's probably when the fix for that will be in. So make sure you say yes, become HQ leader. You don't have to do the HQ quest just because you get it, but
all right.
Right now I would not recommend declining
all hail
at this
to
point.
The chief. Maybe now we can get something done around here. As I'm sure you've already noticed, Jake's custodial skills are severely lacking.
Hey, that is not...
And mine aren't much better. If you want to get an HQ up and running, we need someone who knows how to clean up and manage a place like this. And I got just the person in mind.
Who are you talking about?
From what I understand, you already know him. Guy's name is Mansfield, Deputy Overseer of Vault 81. I think if you offered him a job overseeing the plaza, he'd leap at the opportunity.
All right. I'll go talk to him.
Good. Now, I've got some lasers to go calibrate.
I'll say, is his pathing going to get broken because of dog meat
I'd
too?
never say it to his face, but now and again, Aiden does make some good suggestions. I'm often too busy to worry about things like basic maintenance or upkeep. But we wouldn't be able to start a real headquarters without it. If this Mansfield is willing, we should definitely bring him aboard. Okay then, we all got things to begin on with, so I'll see you later. Good luck with the town scouting, Chief.
Okay. So I got one more thing I'm going to show you guys, and then we'll talk about that thing I mentioned with the holotape. And something that I will add in a future update. Oh, these things drive me nuts. I really need to get a pre-combine expert to just give me a patch for this to fix it. This drives me insane. There's a couple spots in here where it does it. All right, let's go talk to Lupe. So this little conversation right here.
Go check on Jacob. Make sure he doesn't get too angry.
Hey.
Hey, so how was it? Did you like the music? Was the confetti a bit too much? Well?
Okay, so that line right there, and when you hear the radio drama, you hear like Lupe and Jake doing something, like tinkering, and he's like, whoa, 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 you're gonna knock it down. So what was written for the story, but it wasn't, so it was one of those things that came up in conversation, but it wasn't in my notes for making it, for making the quest, and I got to, or if it was, I was at the point in development where I didn't have time to read it in detail over the notes. But what was designed to happen there is confetti was supposed to fall down and music was supposed to play. Well, I ended up doing the music from the UI state, so you get that like dramatic Fallout reveal music, and then the thing turns on. But what was meant to happen in the story was after all that big reveal, then you get an in-game version of it, of like a little radio going dun, da, 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 and like playing some like celebratory in-game radio music, and then confetti coming down as if Lupe was revealing it and making it a big deal. And that's what she's referring to. And that's one of those things where I'll go back and add, because it'll kind of like, I think it'll be a funny moment after you get like the big like Fallout UI reveal where it's like, you know, showing you all the music and the thing slowly turning on, and like you know it's meant to be dramatic, and then we break that dramatic moment with the silly confetti coming out of the, you know, the lunchbox style confetti. I think it'll make for a fun moment. And then if you're wondering like what the hell was that, and you go talk to Lupe and you find out what it was all about. So that was what that little scene was before in the radio thing, was Lupe was setting up the celebratory moment.
What's new, kid?
Oh, come on, tell me. You didn't expect it, right? Was it exciting? I'm glad you didn't hate it. I know it was kind of silly, but you and Jacob have worked on that hub thing for a long time. I wanted to make a big deal of it being finished. And I also wanted to give you this. Here. It's my own personal thank you. If it wasn't for you guys, I'd still be fixing clogged plasma rifles for the gunners. I hope you like it, and I'm really excited to see what we do with this place. I think we can really turn it into something good for the Commonwealth.
So one day when I patch in that gift, all of you guys who did that conversation, you'll get a pop-up as soon as you launch whatever patch it is, and all of a sudden you'll have a shiny new plasma rifle of some sort. I don't remember the specifics of what it's on there, but I've got it all jotted down on a Trello card. So let's talk about, while we're on our way to see Mansfield. Actually, let's test if fast travel is working currently out of Gunner's Plaza. Vault 81. Hey, it is cool. I didn't remember if I fixed the flag with the last patch. So here's a little insight into how far in advance we plan the story and how much time we spend, like, crafting the outline of the story before we even start writing dialogue or anything. Mansfield was specifically designed for the purpose he ends up with here. So like his introduction in chapter 1, that was almost an excuse to introduce him, because we knew HQ, we wanted a character that would be capable of running a facility, and we spent a long time thinking about it. We went over a bunch of different characters. In fact, there was a whole other character that was in the role that Mansfield ended up in. And then actually during a conversation with myself, Sarik, and Super Weevil. Super Weevil's the writer of Conqueror. We were discussing back then potential for crossover with SS2's story and Conqueror. So Super Weevil was in the know about SS2's story before we released it. And this was before we did the Aiden crossover. We were talking about like how could Jake coexist with Jammer and all that stuff. We were having a conversation about that, and then we started asking Super Weevil for some advice during a conversation. We're like, what can we do for this particular thing of like, we need this character who can manage a facility, and then we came to the idea of an overseer would be great, like a vault person. And it was like, and then that's when we came up with like, well, why don't we introduce somebody, because like obviously getting the overseer from Vault 81 to come would not work because we would be limited to the voice lines there. So then we came up with we could give her an assistant, and then that is where Mansfield was invented. So his purpose wasn't just to like have some interesting encounter at Vault 81. It was to that was just like something we piggybacked on. It was like, oh, okay, well, we can also have him introduce the Vitamatic, and like all that stuff's written. But that's kind of like a lot of the early phase of the story is thinking about that. We like come up with the broad strokes, like what are our goals and everything, and then we manipulate it until we get everything fitting together like a nice puzzle, and we plant the seeds, make sure the characters we need later are there. So there's probably some characters you've met in chapters 1 and 2 that end up being way more important and relevant in chapter 3.
Ah, hello. It's good to see you again. Welcome back to what's left of Vault 81. As you can see, we've been rather busy cleaning up.
How are things in Vault 81?
Not good. To be perfectly frank with you, the Vault is failing, and I fear there's nothing anyone can do about it.
It seems like you actually care about this job, though.
I'm surprised you noticed. Most people assume I hate my work. But yes, I do care about my job here. I find great fulfillment in what I do. But so often my contributions are overlooked or taken for granted. I've no real friends here in the Vault, and now no more family. There's little keeping me here.
what do you think about coming to work for me?
Really? Are you perhaps hiring for some sort of deputy overseer position? If it was anyone else asking, I'd probably turn them down, but considering it's you... Very well. I accept. I'll begin packing immediately. Oh, but first, I should inform the overseer. If you'd excuse me.
Whoa, that was weird. I like that. I don't know how dog meat came with me. I appreciate that I didn't leave dog meat behind by mistake.
I got 2 words on what I expect of you. Best behavior.
Over here.
Come on, get out of Mansfield's way. So I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but if you actually follow Mansfield, he actually goes and gives his resignation. So we're gonna go do that now. It was this was one of those things I remember setting up in the CK, but I didn't have time to test it. So I was just like, oh, I hope this works. I hope this works. And then one day, like in the last few weeks, I happened to go test it because I was testing something else in here.
Watch yourself.
And I was like, I wonder if he actually goes like he's supposed to. Oscar, I see you've asked about power armor for SS2 a bunch of times. That's been one of those things that was in our I think it was in part of our the chapter 4 that's not happening plans. So now it's in like that crazy stretch goal territory of wait, where did he go? Did I miss him? Was he too fast?
You got guts wearing that pit boy.
Oh, there he is. He's just struggling with pathing.
Someone hasn't tried to steal it yet.
Come on, Mansfield, you can do it. You can do it.
Seems like there's always a pipe breaking somewhere these days.
Catelyn was another plant we did. She was for the quest for getting the Vitamatic, and then we were gonna use her for something in the chapter 2 sequence as well, but she just didn't. We ended up not needing it. Let's try this. I'm gonna try to move to player and see if maybe his pathing is stuck. He can't get around that
I'm really
guard.
starting to think of this place as home.
No, you're not. That line is too soon. Let's see. I want to see if he makes it. Yeah, there he goes. See it. Sometimes you just gotta.
Stay safe, sir.
No.
Hey, hold
dog
position.
meat. We're trying to show off something. We're trying to show off all the cool things that our team has taken the time to write. I love when the writers do stuff like this and like find dialogue. Sir Rick does it a ton. Finding vanilla NPC dialogue to have lengthy interactions with our characters. Oh, is he going to wake her up? Over's here. Wake up. Oh, she knows it's coming.
Excuse me, Overseer McNamara.
Shouldn't you be working?
I wish to submit my resignation as Deputy Overseer of Vault 81.
Really?
This has been a long time coming, but after the loss of Claudia and the recent mercenary attack, I no longer feel the Vault is the right place for me. I'm sorry, but I've been offered employment elsewhere in the Commonwealth, and I've accepted. This is something I have to do.
I suppose I can understand that to a degree. I'm sorry too.
I'll be leaving as soon as I've packed. If anyone asks where I've gone, you'll explain.
Well then, good luck in the Commonwealth.
I know we've had our disagreements in the past, but thank you. I wish you all the best, Gwen.
And there we go.
Beautiful day in the vault.
There's Mansfield giving his resignation. Mad props to the voice actor of Mansfield. He's such a trooper. Went through and re-recorded all of his lines from chapter 1 because we wanted to change the voice of the character a little bit. So like he came off very snobby in chapter 1, and we're like, that's gonna rub people the wrong way if they have to deal with that all the time. Like it's okay, like he, obviously he is a little bit of a snob, like afraid of the dirt, and that's kind of the humor of his character, but it was rubbing us on the team the wrong way, and so he came up with a new voice for the character and was gracious enough to go redo all the chapter 1 lines for our 2.0 launch so that it matched, so that we didn't have these disconnected readings of the lines. So you may have seen Let's Plays from chapter 1, and Mansfield would have sounded a bit different. Let's go this way. I think that the dog seems to, it seems like if I just ignore the dog and don't tell him to come, he just follows me as soon as I teleport. So I'm not worried about losing dog meat. But if he doesn't follow me out, I'll run back in and get him.
Hello? Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hey, can you hear me?
I hear you. Loud and clear.
Right back at you. I got so distracted by Aiden, I forgot to tell you about your Pip-Boy's upgrade. Well, better late than never. So, congratulations. You are now the proud owner of a fully functional two-way Pip-Boy radio. No more tuning into pre-recorded broadcasts. Now you got the direct line. You can contact anyone at the HQ, whenever you like.
This thing was a gamble. So this, and it still is. I know some people have some bugs with it. We've discovered that there are some mod conflicts with it, which we've got to work a solution out for. But this was one of those things where I'm like, in my head, I was like, I know I can do this. Like, I know I can make the engine do what we want for this, to make this work. But I didn't have any of the pieces, and so I just told Sir Rick, I was like, just assume I can make this work. And I waited until way late in development of Chapter 2 to get this working. But we had been planning this from the beginning. This is another thing, one of those things where we kind of like, you know, a lot of the writing was all around radio towers and radio frequencies and stuff. And it was like, this to me is one of the biggest problems with a character like Preston or any type of like hub in a game, in an MMO, or I'm sorry, an RPG, where you have to keep going back to a character over and over again. It gets so irritating over time. I mean, it's like, we can solve that. Like, we have radio technology, like let's let the player talk to our NPCs from anywhere, and then so now we just have to have slightly alternate the cost from the writing standpoint and the voice actors is we have to have slightly alternate intros for each of our quest conversations to accommodate for the player interacting with the radio, but we're able to reuse the voice files, thankfully, for all the rest of the conversation. And it takes a little bit extra to hook up, but man, I think this is going to be one of those things that pays in dividends in Chapter 3. Like, there's not a ton we use it for in Chapter 2 because you get it close to the end of Chapter 2. I mean, there's still like 3 or 4 more quests, but most of them happen in the location with the characters. But still, I think this is one of those things that will definitely pay off with all the dev time. So if you find yourself ever getting stuck in this, so when you're in this conversation, if you go to first person after a second, it should break you out of it. So if you like, you can just force with the, you know, whatever your first person toggle key is. What I found though with a mod, I don't know what mod it is. If I discover it, I'll show the mod author how to fix it. Is that the thing we use to check for if the player's in first person, it's an animation variable on the characters, on the player's skeleton. And so I think some animation mods have broken that, and that's why some people have problems with this getting stuck. If you get stuck in the scene where you can't answer or something, that is a different problem, and that is one where I basically just need people to send me saves and I can figure it out.
Sounds useful.
Damn right it is. With a two-way radio, you'll no longer have to come all the way back just to give me updates. Should make staying in contact a lot easier. Speaking of, how'd it go at the vault? Did you manage to get that Mansfield guy?
Yep.
Oh, great. I look forward to meeting him. Say, what's he like?
He's a very dedicated man.
Why do I get the feeling dedicated really means something else? All right. Head on back to the plaza once you're ready, and let's see what this new guy can do.
Okay. Now, the question, I think I should have time to do the tutorial. All right, looks like poor old dog me got left behind. Let's go get him. I don't know why sometimes he teleports with you and sometimes he doesn't. There we go. Complete a moving day. I think we can pull off the HQ tutorial today too, which will be nice. Hopefully it's all working. I have not tested it in a minute. I actually just updated somebody's bug report. I took a crack at fixing a bug, but I didn't have a save ready like at past the tutorial for HQ. And I was like, I don't have time to do that. And then I knew I was close today, so I was like, all right, I can test it after this. So we'll maybe I'll be able to test it tomorrow after work. Did I leave him down here? That's a bummer. Nope, there he is. Hey, buddy.
Come on.
He was stuck on the elevator. Good boy.
I heard we had a trader.
I know he doesn't ever like wait deep in the cells you're in. He always seems to teleport somewhere. But there we go. Okay, let's head on back. Actually, are we close to any of the settlements that I need to clean up? I think we are. Oberlin. Yeah, let's go. No, I don't. I just want to finish the quest now because HQ, the tutorial can take a little bit of time. So let's get that rolling. I don't want to get too distracted. I'll run around killing gunners eventually. I think those quests fail eventually on their own. I think if you just like get close to the area, because I found in one of my testing for some of the stuff that's coming with Friday's patch workshop framework, I noticed that we must have gotten attacked at Red Rocket at some point, and there's just a mountain of dead gunners. So I think the quest like forced shut down. I think what it is something like, there's some behind the scenes technical stuff. So this system right here that runs these defend quests, this is actually stored in workshop framework. I set it up so that any mod author who doesn't want to code and do a bunch of code can tap in and make fancy raids. Same with the Conqueror system. The Conqueror Assault system is actually part of workshop framework. Like anybody could have made their own mod to take advantage of it. Not the whole soldier system, but the actual like sending a group of characters with the player to go attack a location and take it over. Like that's all controlled by workshop framework. But there's only 5 of these defend quests left. So I think if it tries to trigger a 6th one, it has to kill off the first one, and that's why. So if you ever found that these were repeating for you over and over again, and then some of them just like end all of a sudden, it's likely because you just hit that 5 limit. That's probably one of those ones where I'll probably extend it out quite a bit. Probably around the time that I ship the 3.0 patch for SS2, I'll go in. I tend to do a lot of work with workshop framework while I'm working on SS2. It'll be like, all right, we're going to need this feature, but how can I make it so that it works good for other mod authors?
Local sports team.
Yeah, you moved on to planting landmines. Inside. That's the part I have a problem with, Aiden.
Heads up.
The inside
Move here.
part.
What am I meant to do, Jake? I'm only one man. I can't watch every door.
Look alive.
Besides,
Stay
they're
there.
Testing them. I had Teresa disable the charge in each mine. None of them would have exploded.
Hey, don't drag me into your little squabble.
Okay, you want to beef up security around here. I get it. But are mines really the way to do that?
Hey.
Oh, there you are. We were just waiting for Mansfield.
Is he here yet?
No, not yet. So you did tell him where he'd be working, right? Like he knows to come to the plaza.
Honestly, I completely forgot about it.
I think this little section was cracking a joke about how we didn't have any player dialogue lines to handle that situation.
That must be him now. Hey, over here.
We'd better move out. Good luck.
Thank you for your help. A safe journey back to the vault. Hello. Nice to meet you all. I'm Mansfield, former Deputy Overseer of Vault 81.
Yeah, we know.
Oh, right. Of course.
Aiden with the welcome wagon.
Are you all right? You seem kind of tense.
Oh, it's just being outside the vault is all still rather new to me. It's quite overwhelming. But I'm sure I'll get used to it in time. For now, I suppose I should start getting settled into my new position here. So, where might I find my office?
Welcome to the team, Mansfield. I'm Jake. If you want an office, there's a few rooms up top you might like. Feel free to help yourself.
Up top? You mean, in here? Surely you can't be serious. This place is piled high with trash. It's dilapidated. It's literally dripping with filth.
Well, yeah. That's why we asked you to come work with us. We need your expertise to clear this place out. Help get everything tidy and organized.
Oh, Cedric. What have you gotten yourself into?
It's all right. We'll work on this together.
Of course, we're all in the same boat after all. The same filthy boat. And thus begins my exciting new career, teaching sanitation. Very well. If you need this facility cleared of all this garbage, pay attention. I shall demonstrate some of the basics.
All right, go ahead.
Now, watch carefully. You there.
Yeah?
Congratulations. You're a janitor. Grab a broom and get cleaning.
Oh, okay.
There. You see? That wasn't so hard, was it?
That still cracks me up. This moment of like him saying that line and then it getting punctuated by the loud music. This was just something that happened when I was just trying to set up a demo of HQ to show the team what it was, because the HQ has always been like this. It was proposed by Sir Rick and one other person. They proposed this idea of HQ, but it wasn't like this depth. It was just this idea of like, instead of Concord, we'll have them work out of HQ, and then we can do quests in there, and that gives a solution to the, we need a lot of characters in one space. We need to control the space. We can't do it, we can't do complex scenes in settlements because you guys can put whatever you want everywhere, and it breaks all the pathing. And so that was their solution. And then I took it to this like crazy level in my head. But I was never able to, I had like a broad pitch of it. I was like, it's going to have departments, it's going to have all this. And I needed a way to like explain it to the team to get people excited about it. So I like created that. So I went through and implemented this whole quest, and then was going to do a demo. And like, I needed to start putting pop-ups in. And like this, in my first playthrough, I didn't time the pop-ups right, and it happened right there, and it just made me burst out laughing, and I showed everybody else on the team, and everybody else was laughing at it, so we just kept it in like this, because it kind of punctuated how funny that line is that Mansfield says. It was just like, look, I just hand people brooms. How freaking hard is this to clean? Love it. So I do want to say I have a lot to say about HQ. I will show you guys the tutorial, but I'm also going to show you guys, talk about some of the mechanics of it, because I know it's a lot to take in. Some of you have figured it out over playing through it, but I'm going to also show you guys a bunch of the options in the holotape and some ways you can bypass some of the complexity if you find it overwhelming and you just want to make a cool spot. Because I think a lot of the complexity of HQ is due to lack of proper UI elements. I'll also say, I saw somebody earlier in chat asking, hey, is there any add-on packs with HQ rooms? There are not, and that's because I have not released the toolkit. I have most of it written, but I haven't released it yet because I have a big giant update for HQ planned. And my current plan now is to try and get that big HQ update and the corresponding documentation out in like late May or early June. That's going to be my next big project. So that's going to be like the 2.2.0 patch. So that's going to come soon, because I think having that toolkit out for summer, when there's, suddenly a lot of people on break from school and stuff, like we might have some people inspired to go in and create it. But the power people are going to have with HQ as add-on authors is nuts. It's crazy. It's more open-ended than anything we've ever done, because we over-engineered the hell out of this thing, because as Baron, one of the only other people who codes on the mod, has said, like, I let him code in a vacuum for too long, so he just kind of made a system that could do anything. So we embraced it, and HQ is very, very flexible. So I have a lot to say about HQ, and I know some of you guys do as well, because it seems like some of the departments are completely useless right now. And but anyway, let's get through the tutorial, and then we'll talk more about that.
You have a real low opinion of Wastelanders, don't you? Believe it or not, most of us know how to clean.
The state of our current surroundings would beg to differ. How'd you even allow things to deteriorate this badly? Who's the head of facilities?
We don't have one. In fact, we don't really have no heads of anything.
No department heads? No wonder you're in such disarray. You can't expect to run a facility without clear, predefined roles.
So, what now?
If we're gonna start assigning roles, I'm taking charge of security.
Hey, if Aiden gets security, then I'm calling head of engineering.
Slow down. It's not a competition. Assuming you're both qualified for those positions, that should be fine. Since you've no head of facilities, I'll fulfill that role. Now, usually in a vault, department heads answer directly to an overseer. Which I suppose in this case would be you, yes?
Yes. That's right.
Well then, we'll be relying on you to direct each department as you see fit.
Let's do this.
Yes. Well, please, proceed at your leisure.
Hey, Chief. If it's okay with you, I'm gonna go find us a proper meeting room. I mean, this atrium's nice and all, but I'd prefer someplace less drafty and with better seating. Come on, kid, you're helping.
I am? Oh, okay.
All right, first up we got our facilities department. So there's a lot to talk about here, because this was a really complex thing to design, because we came up, we had one idea for it originally, and then it had to evolve as we tested it and ran into gameplay issues. Like, for example, originally each department was going to have a max number of people. So just like, you guys start building out departments, but we realized, like, well, let's think of this beyond our quest line, right? The system has to work regardless of the quest lines being played, because at some point in the future, I'll eventually make it so that you can just skip right to HQ without doing quests and just make it like a blank facility you play with. Other add-on authors can take the HQ code, make their own places. So if you think about it like an RTS, you know, your facilities department's like your worker guys, right? Like your peons in Warcraft, or your SCVs in StarCraft and playing Terran. And if you had to have rooms built to up the max so that you could have any, well, then you would never be able to build anything if you need that for your workers. So then facilities becomes the default department. Anybody can exist there. So that was like one of the first things that came about, that where we had to change from our design after we started like putting the rubber to the road and started playing around. So that's kind of the purpose of your facility departments, your worker drones. Cleaning was something that I actually have the code. So some people have said, I've read people comment on the forums about how they don't want to do the cleaning, and we actually have the code in place to skip the cleaning, where you can just do in one step, clean and then build, or at least we did at one point. I think it may have got stripped, but I think I've read more than enough comments that people like the fact that this is like finally a place in the game you can completely clean. You can get rid of all the trash, which was part of the design from the get-go, is that it would be fun to see a place that could get fully cleaned up. Now there are some elements that we didn't clean, like the ceiling still looks nasty and stuff like that, but that'll be one of the types of things that add-on pack authors will be able to mess with. They'll be able to set up wall changes and material changes and stuff, so that you could eventually like turn this place to looking like the Institute if you wanted. And then command mode. So this is one of those ones where unfortunately there are certain UI elements, like when we go into command mode, or workshop mode as it really is, just hacked it. Like there's still prompts from the default UI that'll come up and say like, hold down that key to go into workshop mode, and it's like, damn it. But one of the things we did with this in the design is we wanted to make sure that it didn't feel like a settlement at all. So, you know, there is no building manually. It's called command mode to make sure you don't think about it as workshop mode. Like it needed to be, everything about HQ needs to feel different than a settlement, so that it's. And it was solving a few problems. We wanted to solve the problem of chasing down NPCs all over a settlement to get them assigned sucks. So like that's where we came up with the departments. Well, now you just assign to the department, and then that handles it for you. All the auto assignment will take care of everything. Or you know, we wanted to make sure that we could have like great pathing and great lighting, and then so that's where where each of the rooms kind of acts like a plot. And then our main NPCs have a few rooms reserved for them. So there were a lot of like design decisions that went into this that were going toward larger goals. So let's start out with the simple one. So this tutorial, doesn't play out exactly how I wanted it anymore, because I had to make a change to the UI. But like, for example, this right here. So when you clean, so what we started with was basically we wanted as few elements unlocked as possible to start, because this is a lot to take in. You get all those pop-ups, all these different options. So we trying to start it with just one. So there's one point where it changes, like right here. If you played this before like the 2.10 patch, you would just do this and it would exit you out of workshop mode, and that would be the end. But now it does this. It says what should it be used for. So I used to have it set up to where if there was only one option, it would just select that option automatically. And the reason that we changed that was because one of the number one complaints we got is once you get done with the first part of the tutorial, where you're unleashed to just do whatever you want, and you need to build living quarters, it's not obvious where the living quarters are, so you need to be able to like try cleaning a room and see if living quarters is an option, and then be able to cancel out. And so if a room only had one option, it would just automatically clean it, and you wouldn't get a chance to back out to find a living quarters. So this is a small sacrifice the tutorial had, where it's got this confusing part where it's like, wait, what am I supposed to do here? And I thought that was a worthy sacrifice for the next part of it, of the solving the living quarters crisis. I have an idea for how to solve the living quarters crisis in the future, of like, how the hell do I find rooms with living quarters? But one of the sub solutions we have to the living quarters problem, and if you guys haven't played this tutorial and you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll find out soon when I get to it. But one of the other things that will solve it is when we unleash the add-on pack community on this, and there'll probably be a living quarters for every single room, you know, after a few months of the toolkit being out. So daily workload. So this explanation is mostly true, and that's one of those things where I had to, for simplicity's sake, kind of cheat it. So, you know, after 24 hours, the task will be completed. That's true for most assignments. There are some that take longer, but so there's a couple of points in the tutorial messages where I fibbed a little because it was going to be overwhelming. You know, if I had to put like another page on here that said, except for some tasks, they will be taking a little bit longer. It was just like, you know, there's already enough pop-ups. So at some points I had to slow it down. And the same, like the exiting out of workshop mode, or I'm sorry, command mode, it does it a few different times. In the tutorial, it does it a lot when you only had that one command, just to keep it so that you're not wasting a lot of time exploring. And then there's the other times that it kicks you out are when you try to bring up an assignment menu or a room select menu. So technically we can have those displayed while you're still in command mode, but for some players, I think it's if using certain UI mods, it would cause them to get like locked out of doing anything. And also depending on the order the forms pop up, the UI elements are too busy. You can't read them. So it's this weird thing, like when you're in command mode, so when I'm in this mode, if I can, let me go back in it. If you're, depending on the order you get in this, and then those pop-ups come up, which one gets layered first is like totally up to chance. And the one that's on the front is the darkest and easiest to read. So sometimes the interface would get set back behind, and you would end up being unable to actually see what your selections were. So it was like, all right, well, unfortunately, going back into command mode is a little bit slow. It's faster than workshop mode because we have a limited number of items that can appear in the menu. So if you've ever wondered why it's slow, I told you guys I had a lot to say about this. If you ever wondered why it's slow to get into workshop mode, it directly correlates to the number of workshop mode items you have available. So you have a ton of workshop mods. Workshop mode takes longer to get into, so it's limited in this. And if you have the, I think with the last update of Workshop Framework, we actually added the ability to hotkey going into workshop mode. And then there's also the mod Faster Workshop, which is a DLL for F4SE users that lets workshop mode go like boom, like instantly. Highly recommend using those two in combination. I think even that mod, the Faster Workshop, I think it also adds a hotkey. Okay, so what we ended up doing with this cleaning system, originally it was just going to be something kind of like interesting to do. Like it was something new you could do because you don't really get to clean other than manually. It was like, okay, well, first thing is a change is players don't have to do all this crap. Like you don't have to run around scrapping everything. It's like the NPCs do it for you, which is nice. But we also ended up using the clean to solve another problem. This will probably explain to those of you guys who understand a little of the mechanics of Sim Settlements. You'll understand why we made this next choice. So from a technical perspective, each of the rooms is basically a plot that is exactly shaped to the size of that room. So that's why a lot of the room designs can be repeated in the rooms that are the same size. So what the room clean does, and when it pops up that thing that says like, hey, what do you want this to be used for? What you want this used for behind the scenes is basically saying you're telling it what type of plot to use. And then just like a plot has building plans, these have room upgrades. And so whatever you choose during the cleaning phase, that tells Sim Settlements 2 what building plans are eligible for that room. And then that also unlocks those building plans in your menu down here. So now that we have a facilities office cleaned, it unlocks a construction project for a facilities office that fits this exact shape. So if some of the way we ordered sequence things feels a little bit off, it was all in the service and trying to mask like some technical requirements. Like we had to have that information, right? Otherwise we would just have to unlock every room design in the whole place up front, and then your menu would be a mess and you'd never know why anything could build. So some of the decisions that maybe seem like, maybe we want to get rid of the cleaning, it has a very important purpose. So the solution we have, if you don't like the cleaning from the perspective of you don't want to wait for it, and that's the first thing I'll show you guys in an option here. So yeah, construction time generally takes a day, but for the tutorial it's going to take like 30 seconds. So if you find that the HQ stuff takes too long and it's dragging out and boring, so part of it is HQ was designed to be an end game activity. It was going to be something like you go in, assign a bunch of tasks, then go play the rest of the game, do some quests, work on your settlements, and then just peer out. And then every time you get the update notice that like your task list is complete to HQ, head back, queue up some more, go back out again. Kind of similar to the loop in settlements where you set them all up with you fill up their needs in your settlement, and then you go quest, and then you'll get some notifications that upgrades happen, come back. It's kind of the similar gameplay loop that we have for HQ. But if you find HQ's too slow, if you come down here to the HQ section, you can do this override timers. If you turn that on, then every single timer in HQ works like the tutorials, where it just takes like 30 or 40 seconds, rather than taking several in-game days sometimes for some of them. So if you want to play HQ in real time, turn this option on right here. And then we'll talk about this other stuff when it comes up in the quest line. Now you'll see the cost for building a room when you have multiple spots. It could be built or deducted before you choose where, even if you cancel that out and don't build any of them. Oh, interesting. I did not know that. That is definitely a bug. You definitely shouldn't have to pay for anything that you're not getting. And I think there's a lot of, I know we haven't finished them all. There's a lot of like holes like this in walls and like in floors. Some of them there are repair tasks for, and some of them there aren't. In the long term, I will go through and add the repair tasks for all of those. So if you guys have ever, if any of you have built up all of HQ and you found that you're wondering why some walls or floors can't be repaired, it's just I just haven't had time to set up the necessary systems for that. Nukestel, just curious why Lashes has the best stats of all S2 NPCs that I've checked so far. Probably an oversight. We probably just forgot to update Lashes. Also, I've found that there are some mods that have messed with the stats for NPC templates. So a lot of times when we're setting up NPCs, we start with a vanilla NPC and duplicate it. And so if that NPC happen to have crazy stats, or they have these little character things called, if I had the CK open right now, I'd show you, but it takes forever to load. And if a mod edited the class or edited the template character we based it on, then it ups ours. So I've seen people with like some of our like main characters with totally different stats than we have in our spreadsheets and in the CK entry, because they edited some template that our character happened to be based on. And it's one of those things where slowly I've been fixing that and disconnecting from templates, but I actually introduced a bug recently because of that. So somebody pointed it out this morning, and I've been working on a fix for it. If you ever found that in your game, Carnal is just dead, and you know, when you do console commands to find Carnal, they're just not alive anywhere. It turns out that we had Carnal templated to some NPC, and that template was the only thing giving Carnal any health. So once I disconnect from the template, the only thing then giving Carnal health was maybe the equipment has +1 endurance, or maybe the endurance was giving health. But anyway, without that, then if you had this certain mod that edited that template, I don't remember what the specific was, but it was something along those lines where we disconnected from this template that was keeping Carnal alive, and then people who had this other edit in an unrelated mod would then find Carnal just insta-dead because Carnal had 0 health. So there's a lot of weird stuff like that going on with the stats, and it'll just take a while for us to find it all. It's just best to report that stuff on the forums, and then people eventually relay it to me after enough folks have seen it. All right, so living quarters. So one of the things that was we ended up with, not necessarily intentionally, but so one of the, again, going back to trying to make sure it feels different than a settlement. I didn't want people building beds in here, like going back to that building. But we also didn't want people to just be able to send infinite people here, and we also didn't want to have NPCs wandering back and forth from settlements to HQ. So ultimately, it was, people have to live in here. And then, well, the way I justified it is you think about something like, you know, the Institute or the Pridwin, where there are bunks, or the Institute where like there's like living sections and stuff like that. It's kind of like that, of like, this is more than just an HQ in that sense. It's almost just like a faction's entire presence. And so we ended up with living quarters here. Obviously, when you get to when you just have the main floor before you unlock the middle floor, it feels very disjointed, right? You've got people mixed in, living in, you know, among your offices and your labs and everything. And that was always by design. In fact, what we wanted was for the office floor, when that gets unlocked, is it to feel like a super relief of like, oh, now I can move everybody down there and then make this floor where all my offices and labs and stuff are, because you'd probably be stretched pretty thin. Now, if you're willing to sacrifice both floors and put living quarters in both of them, I think right now you can get up to about 70 NPCs in HQ. We are going to continue, and then I figure once add-on pack authors get to it, since we're not going to cap them, they'll start creating rooms that can hold living quarters that can hold like 7 or 8 people, and then you'll be able to have like 100 people. I think the hard limit's going to end up being 128, because that's just array support, and that's a crazy number of people. Even spread across 3 floors, 128 is a lot of NPCs for one set of cells. So, but that will be the hard limit. But I don't think it'll be hard to get to that for once add-on pack authors are kind of unleashed on things. Here it is. I don't know why I couldn't find my way over here. Z Games. I hadn't gone by Starlight in a while. Now when I do, there are blown up bits from the building when I go there, and my game crashes after being in just a few minutes. Any advice? I mean, best advice is always going to be buff out. Get buff out, get a crash log. There are lots of people in the community who know how to read those, myself included. There's also, somebody can link it, there's a simplified thing for buff out. If you just install, like you can install this free Python thing, like a Python, I don't know what it's called, but it basically lets you run these special files, and it can analyze your crash logs and give you a super simple one that'll say like, hey, the issue is your driver, or the issue is these 3 mods, or whatever it is. So it's super useful. Highly recommend buff out. If you're on Xbox, I mean, there's no solution to crashes, unfortunately. It's just part of life on Xbox. Let's see here. All right, so we got construction. Let's go ahead and build this. I think one of the most disappointing things of HQ for me was that at early on in development, I had amazing AI set up here. Like all the NPCs would be using animation markers in the rooms they were working in, and they would always path to it. And then somewhere along the lines, I screwed it up, and I haven't been able to figure out what it is. But it's one of those on my list of like, I'm going to go back and fix that, because that was one of the #1 reasons that I wanted, or one of the places I wanted HQ to be better than settlements. Like, I think everybody has experienced the dumb settlers in settlements where they just stand there and do nothing, and it's like, I can solve this. And so like that's one of my master design goals for HQ, is make sure I do solve that. I want it to feel like, you know, your people are actually doing what you tell them to, not just being, you know, with some settlements we have the problem with the plots of, I couldn't rely on AI in settlements because the AI pathing is too uncontrollable, but in this we have full control over the pathing, so it suddenly becomes feasible for me to make sure that the NPCs do what they're supposed to. Although at least Mansfield pathed there, but then they just give up. They decide not to use their markers for whatever reason. All right, oh, it's still building. There's still some more layers to that. So from a more technical background stuff, so the way that HQ actually works, it actually uses the layout code from Workshop Framework. So each of these room designs is actually like a series of tiny little city plans, effectively, that get layered into the room. All right, there we go. Set up the living quarters, and let's check our room details. All right, and then here it comes into the jobs. So the jobs were one of those things where it almost got cut. This was actually something that Baron, who coded the framework of HQ, came up with. And then during development, when I was fleshing it all out and like actually implementing it, I was like, I think we have to cut that. I think it's too problematic. And I was explaining my reasoning. But then when it came down to it, it was like, I really like this system, and I'm glad we ended up sticking with it. I think it was a great idea of Baron's. But I think it was before I came up with the solution of, oh, we just make one department have unlimited jobs. Like then that opened up, okay, well then we can do jobs. I think that was part of the discussion of why we couldn't have the caps on with the department jobs. I think, but the facilities being open solved that for us. So this was a lot of fun to figure out, to get icons to actually display on this. So this is actually, the only reason I figured this out is because of the upgrade Pra made to the Vitamatic. So if anybody who used the Vitamatic when it first came out, it used to not have those little colored bars in it. And then Pra showed me that you can put images in books. So technically, from a technical standpoint, these ASAM screens, like this one and the room control screen and the ASAM in your settlements, those are actually book records in the CK. And I did not know you could put little images on them. So we have little tiny images representing the benefits, which I think is fun. And I like that it has kind of like this 8-bit look to give it kind of that the appropriate technological level for Fallout computers. And that was actually like we could make them prettier looking, but it not only does it feel more Fallout to me to have it be the real pixelated icons, it also happens to save us memory because we were able to reuse the icons that float over plots. So we actually reuse those same images, which is a nice double dip. Let's see here, clean up. That'll be that, and then that's just telling you that you can run multiple projects. I think I ended up adding that pop-up about multiple projects because I figured up to this point, every project you do, it kicks you out of workshop mode or out of command mode. So I figured people would be thinking that, oh, I can only do one at a time. But that is not the case at all. Oh, there's our cleaning staff. Let's see. Are any of you guys going to use the hammer icons that we have set up, or the sweep icons we set up? Sometimes they do. It's just not as often as I'd like. No. Okay. Yagi, yeah, the department assign menu is really awful. I figured out why. It was, I forgot a lesson I learned during Conqueror, and I know how to fix it, and it's on my list. I will get it fixed at some point. But you know me, that could be 8 months from now. I'm hoping it'll be part of the big HQ update. So for explanation of what it is, once we get to I'll go over the the HQ assignment menu when we get past the initial parts of the tutorial. Because I think the HQ assignment menu is one of those things that when I watch people play with it on stream, most people seem to not catch all the little subtle details I put in it, and those subtle details are also why it gets all funky sometimes. But again, I have a solution for it. It's just a very time-consuming solution, which is why I haven't done it yet. That often determines how long fixes sit in my queue, is because I have to just, it's my free time. Is if I look at a project and I'm like, I can do this in this one sitting while I'm working on it, while I have the time, then I'll do it. And if I'm like, this might take a 6-hour session, or this is an ungodly amount of time, I have no idea, then I don't touch it until I have a 6-hour sit-down session. Because one of the things with coding, any of you guys who have code experience know this, is sometimes it takes hours to get into the headspace to understand what your past self did. So sometimes, like, I'll sit down, if I've got to like fix a bug with like plot code, then it's like, okay, well, then I have to reread all the plot code because it's been so many years since I wrote it. I don't remember exactly how it works. So then it'll be like, all right, it's going to take me an hour and a half to get into the mindset. And then God knows how much time to address the issue. So a lot of times, if I've only got 2 hours to mod one night, I'm definitely not tackling any issues like that. And that's why you'll get a lot of the bug fixes just seem like pointless, dumb stuff. Like, why did he waste his time with that? And it's either because somebody else on the team did it, or because it's like, I know I can accomplish that with the limited time I have for an evening. Gabriel Victor, if the world really ends and some of us survive, let's give Bethesda to King Gath in the Apocalypse. It'll be the same or just better. I appreciate the confidence. I do not have the game dev experience to pull off what Bethesda does, but I appreciate the confidence. Have you guys been checking out all those Starfield leaks? It's some interesting some opinions coming out from employees or ex-employees. I honestly think every major game company does guerrilla marketing. I think they do plants. I think stuff like that. I bet this is not, or it probably is an ex-employee, but they have permission to say the specific things they do, and their goal is to like drum up excitement about certain things. I think that's part of the marketing strategy for every major game company. There's no way they're not. Like, you just have to embrace that, right? That's part of internet culture. Oh yeah, I forgot I can build the rooms now. My energy is done. I need to fix that. I think I had it. Actually, let me check. Did I fix it? I had this on my to-do list at some point yeah, I need to add that, of like individual objectives to say like, okay, cleaning's done, go build, because otherwise I've watched a lot of people doing Let's Plays do exactly what I just did, and I built the damn thing, not realizing that like, oh, they're done. I can start up the next part. Let's see, Alex, is the little button to change the various cells throughout the game available? If so, they don't spawn in the game. What do you mean the various cells? I don't know what you mean. Johnny Kimchi, the one video Juice had released. I haven't watched that one. I just saw some Reddit posts about, and some tweets about people leaking information. I'm assuming Juicehead's covering those in more depth. I haven't watched his video yet. I saw it on my feed. I didn't have time to watch it. But yeah, Nuxel, I agree. It's hype. I think that's how game companies generate hype now. It's like Bethesda likes to do their big reveal, which I mad respect. Like, I like that they do their big full game reveal, and then it's like, and it launches in 3 months. Like, that's awesome. I like doing the same thing. And in fact, we don't even reveal the gameplay for some settlement stuff. We just give you a cool trailer with a launch window, and then that's it. So, and that's like, we could do like full gameplay demonstrations, but part of the reason that we spend a lot of time integrating story into our stuff is because the gameplay systems I want to design are too complex to just sit down and show off. And I'd rather have people like one of my like the settlement system, when Bethesda showed that off for Fallout 4, like, then were a lot of people who were irritated. They're like, oh, I don't want to build. So then they had to like, play defense and say like, oh, it's an optional system, you don't have to do that. And it's like, I don't want to get involved with it. Like, I don't want people judging these systems from afar until they've had a chance to play them and see them. Like, HQ rightly got criticized a lot due to complexity and bugginess and being unfinished. But still, if I had gone through and demoed all of the system beforehand, I would have had to tip my hand on story content, and then you wouldn't have even had the chance to have the tutorial. So like, I think that's really ballsy of Bethesda to show off all their gameplay systems and like let people sit there and comment on them without any context. I think just doing some trailers close to release and just showing like a few uncommented gameplay snippets is enough, but I still appreciate that they wait until everything's locked in and they're ready to release before they do their big reveals. All right, engineering department and security department. So engineering department obviously has a lot of use. Security is currently one of our useless departments. I'm sure many of you have figured out. You can get away with not signing anyone. That will be rectified greatly with the big overhaul patch. Like security is one of the 2 departments that has virtually no purpose. The others all have some purpose. The most purpose obviously is facilities. All right, let's go ahead and do some assignment. Okay, so here's our chance to assign. So now I can talk about this assignment menu. So let's go ahead and bring this guy up. So first off, to Yagi's point, this menu is very finicky. You're not alone if you experience that. So from a technical perspective, the reason behind this is, see that how it's got a little vault boy there, and like they're doing different things. Those are the vault boys for the different stats. So that whatever vault boy you get, that's telling you the best stat that character has. So Mala's using the strength vault boy, so Mala's best served strength is the strongest perk. Aiden is doing, I think is that the perception? And so that's the other thing, is if you don't know the bobbleheads, that doesn't do anything. That one's charisma, this one's perception. But once you learn those, like that's something you can see. This is intelligence, to tell you kind of like, hey, the best department for them is going to be the one that matches that. So that was a little subtle thing. Now the problem with the way I did it, and this is why all these volunteers are stacked, is because anything that uses the same item, even if they have different names, if they use the same item, they will all get stacked together. So that's why you can end up with like a bunch of copies of like one character. Like you can look in your thing and it'll say you have 3 copies of Jake. What it actually is you have 3 copies of the charisma and they got stacked together. It doesn't always happen. Like you can see we have multiple people with strength and they got separated, but a lot of times that's what it is. So my solution is going to be, I have to create like 128 records of each of these bobbleheads to make sure that they never stack, so that they can't stack inventory. This is just a limitation of inventory system from Bethesda. So let's talk about this. So that the bobblehead tells you their best stat. Then the next thing you see is the current benefit, the benefit they would provide to the current department. So you can see everybody has perception on the left. That's saying in engineering, this is the benefit they'll provide. Then the next is the current department they're in. And then in brackets, that is the benefit they're providing to that department. So that's how you decode this stuff. So it's kind of like you're giving you a warning like, hey, you know, if you pull him out of facilities, you're going to take 8 strength away. You pull Mala out of facilities, you're going to take away 15 strength. Is that worth it for the 2? So this is the best I could come up with this limited UI we have. This is one of the biggest challenges with developing big systems mods for Fallout 4, is we don't have a lot of interesting UI stuff. Like we have the barter window, message pop-ups, and like containers to drop in, and that's pretty much it. And we have to like do everything with those 3 elements of interaction. So the other one we can do is like physical interfaces, but those tend to be, you know, then you're locked to a location, which is why, you know, things like the city planner's desk are handy. But even them, those still end up breaking down to, at some point, we have to pop some sort of information in front of your face. So then we're back to barter windows, or terminals are another one. Terminals or message pop-ups. So lots of limitations. But hopefully that explains this. So, and fortunately I was able to get that max workers thing in here. That was another thing where we had to do something super hacky. There's like a series of objects with max workers 1, max workers 2, max workers 3, etc. And it has to like pick one and put that whole sentence in there because of the way text strings work in the game. Really complicated to get this UI working. So you guys can imagine why it's limited. Like, you know, there's like, again, I think one of the biggest complaints about HQ now is the lack of clear signs in the UI, and that's because it's really hard to make useful UI in this game. We can do cool stuff like the top thing, and I can explain that stuff too while we're waiting for these quests to update. Although it should upgrade immediately with this. I don't think there's any waiting period here after I assign the appropriate department heads. I think it goes to the little meter thing, but should immediately say, oh yeah, the upgrade, engineering upgrade. So up at the top there, if you're wondering, so this is one of those things where there's more stuff in this UI than you guys understand yet, probably because it's not relevant. So at the top, so those brackets that are around the departments, first of all, that extended information will be hideable in a future update so that you don't have to show all of that stuff. So if it's like you don't care about those numbers at the bottom, or you know the department symbols, you don't need the names, the brackets above and below that pop up in workshop mode, that will be stuff that you'll be able to set to hide. So if you find this UI too busy, you can turn it off. That'll be a hotkey I add in the future. Speaking of, I'm going to add a hotkey right now because I want to show you guys something that I bet most of you have never seen before. So let's go to hotkeys, HQ HUD, and we're going to go extra data. And we'll go ahead and overwrite whatever this is. Cycle 3. I don't care about that. Okay, so let's wait a second. Was that toggle all extra data? Oh yeah, if you set that hotkey toggle all extra data, that will hide that stuff I was just talking about. But what I want is this. Nope, that's not the right one. I did the wrong key, so I have it backwards. So it's the other key I want. Let's go in. Sim settlements 2 hotkeys. And we're gonna change this one to K. So when I turn, if I hit this, let's see if it's gonna work for me. There it goes. So you can see all that extra information that appears down in the lower left there. So there's a lot going on with the HQ HUD that's available, but most of that stuff on the left, I haven't really been talking about it much or showing it off because it's not super relevant yet until we get to the full stuff. But you can see that we got a lot of stuff that's available to display on the screen. We have no limit to that. We can go nuts with showing information, but interactive stuff is where we're super limited. So going back to what this UI does, so if you look at one of those little boxes that has the department, some of it's obvious. Name of the department, number of people in it, right? And then if there's a max below it, max number of people. That's obvious. Those 3 numbers, I think those are not obvious at all. So what those numbers are those telling you the breakdown of your energy. So the first number is permanently used energy. So if you had a number there, so like in logistics, you'll see usually has a number in that first column. That's stuff that's being used constantly. Then the second number is stuff that's being used temporarily. So if you have like a project going on, so like if we go ahead and start the engineering project, you'll see that that will fill up. So let's do the metal detectors. If it kicks me out, I'll go back in. And that the engineering should fill up a little bit. Now if I pop back in here, and let it fill up. You can see it's 10. So that's a temporary project in the second column. And then the third column is the max energy you have for the department. So that's how much they can handle. So that's how much work it can currently handle is that third number. Eventually, like ultimately, like just having, and then if the bar goes red, it means you're using more energy than is available. So let's talk about something else that would be useful for people who don't find HQ an enjoyable system and they just want to get everything going. If you go into God mode, or use the Workshop Plus free build mode, you can bypass all of the mechanics and just build whatever you want. You can just start building stuff and let it once it finishes. So like with that, plus switching the override timers on, you can basically rip through HQ in a single sitting and go through and build everything. And like we have a way to bypass the God mode, but we left it in because we know for some people it's just this isn't going to be their bag, and that's cool. I'm all about adding in bypasses to stuff. So if I bring up that the K full interface again here, just to go over like some of that stuff on the bottom left there. So that new stuff that appears on the bottom left, the first symbol, the rotating, that means daily usage. So that'll be like one-time usage of things, and that again doesn't make sense yet. And then let's see, upkeep's talking about that. So then the timer one there is stuff that's being used. Actually, I don't even remember. See, this is why we don't show this interface off yet. I have to bring up my documentation of it. It made sense to me at the time when I put those icons in, but this is hidden for a reason because that stuff is overly complicated. I can show you the max though. The first max column is how much the workers are providing, they're allowing. And then the next is how much HQ itself can handle. And sometimes the worker max will get higher than the HQ, and that's basically a sign you should build more things to up those maxes. Now we'll go over those more later when we get to actually building. But most of that stuff completely irrelevant until we get to the big overhaul of HQ. So this is why that'll probably remain hidden by default anyway, because I think that's just too many numbers on the screen. It's like it's overwhelming to look at. I think like even the stuff at the top there is a bit much for a lot of folks, but the stuff on the bars will probably always be hidden by default just because I think it's more than most people need. I have one of the things I gotta keep poking one of our graphic designers about this is I came up with a way to like more easily explain the HQ system that I could tell you the words for, but I think it would be easier if I had a visual to explain. But it's and so I'm not even going to bother saying it because without the visuals, I'm just going to confuse you all. In fact, I'm sure me explaining the HUD without you being able to see what I'm pointing at didn't help anything. Oh, Nukasal, the wiki page does a good job explaining most things about the HQ. That's awesome. I'm glad. Thank you, Sasori and Veda and whoever else has been involved with that. Thank you guys for documenting that, because it's been a struggle to communicate it all. Like I said, I have a way now, but I need a graphic artist involved to communicate it effectively, I think.
Take it easy. I'm listening.
Our building supplies. We used them all up. We can't do no more projects.
I'm surprised you didn't have more materials on hand. Has there been some sort of disruption to our supply chain? Oh, let me guess. We don't have a supply chain.
Sorry, no.
Then I suppose we'll have to start setting some up, won't we? Jake explained you own and operate a number of settlements. Perhaps we could take the supplies we need from one of them.
Whoa, hold on. You can't just take people's stuff like that.
Why not?
Why not? Look, I don't know how stuff works in a vault, but up here, people have independence, and they work hard for what they got. If we go demanding what's theirs, then we're no better than the gunners in my book.
If you're good to people, they'll be good back.
Yeah, what he said.
So what do you propose we do instead?
Well, instead of just taking from people, why not just ask them to donate what they got spare? Providing we ask nicely. I bet most people helped by ASAMs would be happy to send us what they can.
If we're putting it to a vote, I vote for the Ask Nicely plan?
I have my doubts. But you know the people of the Commonwealth better than I. If you think asking nicely would work, then go ahead. I shall await the bountiful inflow of supplies with bated breath.
What's the plan?
Well, guess we should go find someone to ask about supplies. Hey, you know who we should talk to? Huber and the others. I bet they'd be willing to send some supplies and materials our way.
I'd be glad to talk to them.
All right. I'll meet you there.
If you can get the supplies, I'll make sure they're all organized and stored properly. That way we can use them as soon as they arrive. I should get back to work. Hope everything goes well at the settlement.
Okay, I actually think this will be a good place to stop. I ended up talking way more than I expected about HQ. I'm sure you guys aren't surprised, but I think we'll pin it here and we'll come back and pick up next week on it. I'm going to bring on Foxel in a minute, but I am going to take us over to the settlement where we're meeting them. So it's Sunshine Tidings. And that way for next week, I can actually, there's no point to that because you guys know me. I'm going to pop on 10 minutes early. I'm going to want something to do so we can go mess with Sanctuary as usual. I'm actually curious if my power grid tools are going to pop up right now because the last time I loaded into Sanctuary, my grid was corrupt. And then my new reset tools kicked in, which was cool to see. Let's see, Alex Mon, is there any way to spawn those buttons, the ones to go in? Oh, to get into the cells? I mean, they should just, as soon as you have access to the Sim Settlements one, those buttons should appear. If they're not appearing, I have no idea what's going on. I mean, maybe you had your save from before I added them, and for some reason they didn't update, but that shouldn't be the case. I tested a lot of those in those, but yeah, if that button's not appearing, there's some sort of mod conflict going on. All right, let's do our save. LP, what are we, day 18 now? Day 18, end of session. There we go, and then we do our usual set time. Wait, no, first we gotta set the game hour to. Set game hour to 11. Force weather, make it nice and pretty. Let's do A, and then we set the time scale to make sure it doesn't start raining. And then we'll move away from hammers. Although, because we're in the industrial section, there'll always be a little bit of hammering going on. All right, and then we'll TFC so we don't get pulled in the first person, third person. And now we're ready for chat mode. Actually, we'll just hang up in the sky and see if we can watch our people moving around. So I am going to bring on Foxel. Foxel created, and Foxel will correct me right away if I'm misnaming them. I believe it's Rags to Riches is the add-on. And it is like 5 in the morning for Foxel. So let's give him a poke. Ring, ring. Calls are going. Don't hear any answer yet. Foxel, are you there? Hello, hello. Maybe he fell back asleep. Okay, we'll try again in a minute. So all right, so while we're waiting for Foxel to call me back, so in this section, for those of you guys who are new to this part, basically let's just hang out and chat with King Gath time, and then Foxel as well. And so if you have any questions for myself or Foxel about the mod or whatever, feel free to @KingGath, and I may not get to your question immediately when you ask it. It tends to be that, like the last half hour of the stream, I go catch up on all the messages, so your message may get answered a half hour after you ask it, but I will, I have like my place marked right now on the last question I answered, and I will go back and make sure I scroll through and get them all at the time I decide that it's time to go to bed. So yeah, I'll ring him again in just a second here. But yeah, it's like 10:30. I've got at least an hour and a half. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Join call. Are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good.
Fantastic. All right, audience, can you hear Foxel? What do we say? Go ahead and say a few words.
1 2 1 2 baguette.
I take it you're from France.
Yeah. East of France, actually. Yeah, I'm just cutting the sound from the video because I will hear myself back.
Very nice. So I think you are if you're not the first, you're one of the first couple people to have their first add-on come out with SS2. You never did anything for SS1. Is that accurate?
I did something, but I never released it because my GPU kind of burned.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. So, but I definitely tried first agent, but I could never release something. Also, I was too ambitious at the time, so when I think back at the plan, I was like, okay, it never was going to work.
I think that's the curse of every artist and designer. you get excited about something like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this and this. I mean, that's what I started with SS2. I had this massive design, and we keep having to cut things because I'm like, well, that was stupidly ambitious. Like, that's not possible, or at least not possible for a bunch of people doing it in their free time.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between SS1 and SS2 for the agent back. It's definitely easier with SS2.
Yeah, those scripts that Pra wrote make it a hell of a lot easier to
to
make the add-on packs. So then you do have a little experience doing it the hard way from back when?
Yeah. I remember the purple cubes, for obstacles.
Oh,
basically, I made 3 stages houses, and the settler, they will never go up.
Yeah, to get up the stairs. Yeah, so if you guys remember SS1, settlers basically couldn't path stairs, and that was because I had come up with this really janky way to do pathing with dynamic spawned items. And what we had to do we would cover up our edges of our buildings with these purple cubes. And that made it so the NPCs could path around them, but they couldn't do stairs because they wouldn't use the nav mesh. It was like the lesser of evils that I knew how to do at the time. And then for SS2, we discovered this like way simpler method. It's so much less work. That was one of those points. I remember in the tutorials when I had to make the video, I'm like, this is gonna turn off so many people because it's so much work. I'm shocked so many people did it for SS1, put out add-on packs. Because do you remember how irritating it was to have to set up those boxes? It was not fun.
Oh yeah.
It's a damn miracle.
I love Legos, but yeah. And it was the last part in general when you have everything set up, you have your decoration, you have everything was shiny, and you were like, okay, let's do the cubes, and oh my god.
yeah, not a fun part. Well, I think that's why when I wrote the original toolkit, I wrote it as like, here are some steps you can do to make your buildings better, but consider them all optional. So that like what I was encouraging people was like, just build the structure and decorate it, and that's enough for most players. Like, I mean, like, people who play this a lot want all the bells and whistles. They want to have random clutter and they want their NPCs to path it. But when the mod was first coming out, like, I think people were so excited about the mod, they would forgive if you skipped the navigation steps, because it was really frustrating to do those back then. Like, I'm so glad we graduated beyond that.
Yeah, that's a big difference, of course. And the tutorials also are like, you do the minimal that is acceptable to play, and then you can come back and improve. And it's a good way to make the new tutorial, actually. I really like that way of doing it.
What did you think between the? So you went through both tutorials. Did you find the second one was as easy, or did I? Because I've been complimented a lot on the original toolkit of being very easy to follow. Despite it being long, it was very easy to follow. I don't know that I have not gotten the same compliments on the second add-on kit, but I also think we haven't gotten nearly the number of mod authors playing with it as we did with the first one. Like, the first one, I got it out so soon after modding came available for Fallout 4, and now there's not as many new people coming to mod it, so it's less people to read it. But what were your experience firsthand in the SS1 toolkit versus the SS2? Like, I know you said it's much easier to make add-ons, which I agree. Like, we have all the scripts and stuff, but as far as the tutorials, did you find the SS2 tutorials easier or harder to read than the SS1?
I think they were easier because there was some pause that you could take. I mean, for the SS1, I remember that you needed more time to test it, to have something that you could play in the game. While with SS2, you could already have the satisfaction, for the first tutorial. It's not actually a plot; it's a skin. So you could already see the fruits of your labors. So it's enticing, You're like, oh, good, I already did my first mod. It's I think it's something that can bring more people into it because they're like, okay, it's already working, and there is something, it's maybe sad, but it's more encouraging because, of course, you're going to have a lot of small issues because there was one of two things with the creation kit that doesn't go the way you wanted it, but with a small step, there is already gratifications. So that's, I think, the biggest difference between the two.
I agree 100% with I think I stated in the toolkit of like how important it is just get stuff in the game because it's super motivating, right? Like, when you see your first mod working in the game, it's like, I did it, I can do it, and then your brain kind of explodes with other, like, what else could I do now? I think that's a wonderful feeling. That's like why I do tutorials, because I remember how excited I was when I figured out modding any game. Every time I figure out a new to mod, I've modded a lot of games in my life, and every single time it's so exciting to get the first thing in.
By the way, I see in the chat that my volume is 2 times louder than yours, so perhaps you might want to reduce my.
I did not.
my sound.
I was not catching up on chat. Let me turn you down a little bit.
Yeah.
So now you've gotten your first add-on out. What are you working on next? I see you're very active in our dev server, so I assume you've got something else in the works. What's next for Foxel?
So there is the version 2 of Rags and Witches. Actually, I have issues to say Rag and Witches because I wanted to call it Rag to Witches, then I forgot the end.
Whoops.
But basically, it's gonna stuck now. It's I have to deal with it. But yeah, I did second version because I saw the other add-ons and I'm like, okay, I could do that better. And I realized sometimes that my random clutter is a bit weird. So yeah, basically, I think this week I will release version 2 of Rag and Witches. And then I was like looking at several parts of the game. I'm like, hey, there's not a lot of mod with Far Harbor, for example, and I've seen that you announced, I think it was a tutorial for the World Reconstruction Kit, that you weren't going to touch Far Harbor. So I'm like, okay, let's make city plans and things like that for Far Harbor, maybe.
Oh, and there's a lot of amazing assets in Far Harbor to work with.
Yeah. They I like the style of the building there. By the way, it's a bit like Fallout, with the descripted building, but it's a better shape actually than the Commonwealth. It's a bit weird with the the build kit of Far Harbor.
Yeah, I think they learned a lot of lessons with it. So each iteration it gets a little more polished. And that's why I think it's like why the story for Far Harbor feels so much better than a lot of the stuff in the base game. Is like they start figuring out their own systems and like the gameplay loops, and then they can get tighter with it. It's kind of same thing we could say for between SS1 and SS2. Once we figured out the parts that worked, made it easier to tighten it up and make it better. And I think their build kit, they did the same thing. Their build kit just feels way better for Far Harbor.
Yeah, so much.
So what is the big updates you're adding to 2? To Rags and Witches, or is the 2.0? I guess not. It's not the. Well, I guess you said two different things. Are you making? Is it 2.0 as in you're updating the existing to add a bunch of new content and change content, or are you going to have 2 separate mods that have that name?
Actually, it's the same mod, but it's the 2.0.
Okay.
Actually, it's new plots. There is a bar and a hotel that are made with crates, because in the meantime I did took an interest on real life crate houses, and you'll be amazing on what they can do.
Yeah,
there was a lot of thing with that. It's really impressive. And I did some bug fixes in existing plots, and I corrected some things. Yeah, and I added a CPD skin. You still have a big, a small bug, because you can basically that is linked with the issues that you mentioned yesterday. With the stage.
Oh yeah. That I posted a script you can test on that channel. So if you want to try it out, see if it fixes it. So this will be a fun one. So here's a fun technical glitch in Fallout that developers, any of you software developers will understand why this is weird. So there's a script tag we can add called const, which in most scripting language or most programming languages, const means this thing can't be edited. It just exists. Well, it turns out that if you reference, again, I'm using technical language, so if you guys don't get this, don't worry, I'm just not talking to you. But if you set a variable to a reference of a const, and then you edit that reference, it lets you do it, and then it also edits the const. And so it turned out that, and this is the part where everyone will understand, that for people doing building skins, if you ever found that every time you refresh your plot or anything, more stuff keeps appearing, it was because of that bug. There's like this weird, and maybe it's intentional, but it feels like a software bug at a low level that I wasn't aware of, and that people have literally, like, I found it out a while back, but people just pointed it out to me today or yesterday for Foxel that this was impacting skins. So if you've found a lot of extra items being duplicated on your building and they were stuck there seemingly forever, that should be solved on Friday. Well, at least I hope. Like I said, I sent the script so that you and Tunuvia could try it out and tell me if you still have infinite CPD officers in your skin. Hopefully that's resolved, though.
Yeah, it's still hilarious, the bug. You come in the settlement like 10 officers in the little box, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. A lot of the thing I do with the building plans, and I think I saw you saying this in chat, so I'd love to hear you talk more about it, of like all the different, I try to enable crazy amounts of possibilities. So like I generally code as much of the stuff that I know is exposed to add-on authors with as much flexibility in mind, so you guys can get creative and experiment. And the problem with that mindset is that testing all the different combinations becomes basically impossible. So then I rely on getting reports from you guys who have tried it, who have tried different combinations to find these little issues. So speaking on that of the creativity and expandability, do you find yourself still like flush with ideas of things you might be able to do with the add-on pack system, especially with building plans, since that seems to be your forte?
Yeah, definitely there is a lot of ideas that you can have when you see the different type of add-on, because you can do plots, city plan, world reconstruction kit, for the houses and etc. etc.
Yeah.
And actually I'm flooded with ideas, and I have to refrain myself to do another mod each time. I'm like, no, finish your update.
Yeah. So what are the other things? So like assuming you finished Rags to Riches, like if you got it to a point where you're happy with it, what would be the next thing you'd be excited to work on for that? Because I think we got a front load of content for SS2 from add-on authors with all the porting, but I still think there's a lot of holes in the like there's still a lot of stuff that no one's touched, where like people in the community would be ecstatic to get a hold of. So I'm just curious if there's anything you might do after Rags and Riches that people can hound you about and get excited and try and get you excited about.
Well, I thought about some creation club items that I remember they had plots for that in the SS1, like what's it called? The donut shop.
The Slocum Joe's.
Yeah, thanks for the Slocum Joe. And Nuka Cafe, but basically I was thinking about, but let's make a small add-on so you can put them in, because I really like having the early Creation Club assets, because they're really quality content. That's my opinion. And sometimes, when you're used to to using the plots of Sim Settlement, it feels a bit weird, to not use a plot and just pop up the structure, because you don't have interaction. If you do a regular building with Fallout 4, you can put your Slocum stand, but it won't evolve,
Right.
It won't change, so it's a bit turn off. So I'm like, okay, let's make a plot with that.
Yeah. I like that kit a lot. That was one of my favorite ones. That's what, that was the only one I did a building plan for, the Slocum Joe kit. I thought it was really nicely done.
Yeah, the animation is impressive, because there is really something. Plus, you have coffee, you have the donuts.
Yeah,
it's complete. It's. I think that if every asset of the Creation Club were like that, oh my god, I think I will have bought much more. To be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely a divisive thing, but I think what we find in the Sim Zone community is most of the people. There are some people who hate it. Most of the people who stick around and are still modding Fallout 4 end up getting at least the stuff that fits in their wheelhouse. Like, I think there's a large percentage of the people still playing Fallout 4 modding, like people are watching right now, who do have some amount of Creation Kit stuff or Creation Club stuff, so they probably are not fully opposed to it like the general anger was when it came out. Like, I know that I know I was always like cautious about talking about it even when it first came out, because it was like, I understand why it's so expensive, but like, the logic that was coming around it when it first came out was always like, well, like, how can you compare the $20 price tag or $10 price tag of this thing when I can get the entire Far Harbor DLC for that? And it's and like, that's, like, from an outside perspective, that's legitimate. But I think with their actual target audience are people who are like, I understand this thing's not going to sell to 10 million people, so it's going to sell much less units, which means each unit has to sell for more money. That's ultimately what it comes down to. So it's like, it's content designed for super fans.
Yeah. Definitely a different approach than the regular DLC.
Yeah,
but I hear a lot about Far Harbor because people don't bring that much Nuka World, but it's still huge.
Yeah. Nuka World's got a lot of cool assets too. Like a lot of like colorful things, like a lot of fun, like the mascot things and like all the statues from around the different places. Like lots of interesting stuff like that you can work with.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, I see the question. I will make rather plans. Because we're speaking about traders. But Nuka World, I think there is a lot of thing to work with. Actually, I also thinking about the operator, nice. Maybe I could do one or two plots with that. But there is something that really interested me was the reconstruction of the wastelands. Because there is other places that will be touched outside of Concord.
Yeah.
And even Concord, I have some ideas like the Museum of Liberty, because I'm like, hey, you know what this city lacks? A mall center or something. You could buy things or interact. Because I really like the addition of the new Fallon in Concord. It was really nice because you have something unique you could do only there. It was really great, actually. We have that on like on our list of cut things of like, that would be really cool, but it's gonna push us too far down the scope of like rebuilding the museum and making it a museum to the player. That was like an idea that has come up on our team like 3 different times, and like I just keep nixing it because I know how much work it would be. It's like that could take like the mod Legacy of the Dragonborn for Skyrim is like you can see the depth you can go with a museum, like, and like that to me is like, that's the only way to do it. Go all in on that. It's so much fun. And so like then the idea of undertaking that, it's like, well, no, that takes a team of multiple people years to do. We've got enough multi-year spanning projects over here. So like, the museum, it would be so awesome. Like, I think anybody willing to tackle that, I think you will have a huge fan base immediately. Like, that's such a fun idea. And the Museum of Freedom, such a great, like, you got a museum already in the world that's big. It's got a lot of space in there. It's asking for you to do it. And you could even say, because like there's the collapsed floor in there, you got a basement you could work, because like once you copy the cell and duplicate it, you could clean that up and say that there's a basement level on there. You could even there's some cut content of additional rooms in the museum, and you could just go with the TARDIS logic and say it's bigger on the inside and make it a little bigger in there, and people would be fine with it. Yeah. It's great. There's a lot of potential with the museum, and Concord is really a place that I like. And I think I do wonder is that you remember in Conqueror you had settlers that had different voice lines.
Yeah.
Because so I was wondering, maybe Concord could have different lines because sometimes when Concord is really big, when you have Red Rocket and Abernathy that is really big, you have a lot of supplies.
Yeah.
So nearly every door on Concord is unlocked. So you have like 40 people wandering the street and they're telling you, you should go see Diamond City. Hey, dude, you bigger than Diamond City.
Yeah, that's funny. We have done those projects in the past, like the civilian lines. I'm not super happy with. Like, we're not porting those forward from Conqueror. I don't like, because I don't like not necessarily, I don't care about, like, the voice acting was fine. I think the lines that we wrote for that were not great. So they're kind of awkward, and so I don't think that those are worth porting forward. But I like the sentiment of that. But the problem we have is I find that the writers find it not particularly exciting to write that content of writing all these like miscellaneous lines that have no responses, because you can't have any context to them. They have to be intentionally super generic and non-memorable. Because if they're too memorable, you end up with the arrow in the knee meme, right? Where it's like, oh, that line stands out too much for it to feel like background chatter. So you have to be careful. So you're intentionally writing boring so that it feels like background chatter. And then the voice actors don't find it exciting because they know it's supposed to be background chatter. So like, we have not delved into any more of those projects, and I don't think we will. But it is a good idea. I think it would add a ton of life to have the Conquered Settlers, and when we expand the world we pop outside, to have them have unique dialogue. That would be awesome. I just don't think we're going to do it on our team because of it's too much burnout type work. Like, that I can't risk our team who's in charge of the main story doing, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you felt it yourself of, you have to temper your own ideas and creativity because there's only so much time in the day. And so if you spend too much of that time on stuff that doesn't excite you, you're going to burn out and quit.
Yeah, so much. Also, I'm working in IT in real life, so I know the problematic of that.
So has this become a creative outlet for you then? Like, is it something, because that for me, modding is like, I don't get the creative satisfaction from work, and so that's why I mod as much as I do. Is it the same boat for you? Like, IT is great and all, but it's not, I find it not very satisfying in a creative standpoint. I'm just solving people's problems as opposed to ever creating new things.
Yeah. I was working before from communication agents, but it was a bit complicated, so I turned off to big software. So it's less creative indeed, because you can do the things that are expected. You can't really go crazy about it. So modding is a way to express, the coding and these skills, but for fun, for something a bit different. So modding is a way for me to do that.
Do you have a coding background?
Yeah.
Have you started poking your head into some of the scripting for Fallout to see if you can enhance your mods in that way?
Yeah. I started reading about Papyrus, so it's interesting already, and I'm trying to think more sources, for learning a bit how it works. But some scripts are already could use some love, and I think you could do a lot of things with the Papyrus. Do I pronounce it right?
Papyrus. Yeah, that's
Papyrus. Yeah.
I mean, like all of Sim Settlements is built on it, and so it's you can do a lot. You can do a lot with that. I think it's the Bethesda gets a lot of crap for some of the limitations of their language, but it's pretty damn powerful. You can do most of the things you can imagine you can pull off. There's my biggest gripe is the user interface, which you all heard me griping about during HQ, but otherwise it's pretty open ended what you can do.
Yeah, I was thinking this recent day about the games that are in the holotapes and arcade born if you have the Creation Club. I was thinking, hey, what's the language of these games? Because they have their own UI. I was thinking, okay, the games have their UI, because I also looked at the games, because I'm also following a project of Fallout Pip-Boy. There is some guy that is doing his own Pip-Boy and is trying to replicate everything in Python.
Oh wow!
So I was looking, hey, how the game works. So I'm trying to see if I can see the code of the games, but I don't know if they are locked or something. I need to delve deeper, but I was thinking, yeah, if you could see how the games work, maybe you could do some custom UI, you know, for things that are a bit complex to use.
Yeah, I think technically you could pull it off. I don't, because like from a modding perspective, as far as I know, it would be possible to add more holotape games. So then, like you said, you could use that, whatever the code, instead of having it move a character on screen, it moves a cursor, so you can select things. So yeah, in theory, you should be able to use that to make UI stuff. I don't know anyone who's figured it out yet, though. Like, I don't know, like, there's a Papyrus thing called Holotape Chatter, and it's supposed to allow you to communicate back and forth between the game and you know what you're doing. And I figured out something tiny I was able to intercept off of that. And anybody who played through the Industrial Revolution quest line with Mr. Genius, which is one of the last patches we added to SS1, excuse me. There's a little part of that quest where you have to play a game of Missile Command and you have to get to a certain score in order to advance the quest. And like, I was able to hook onto that, and that was a giant pain in the butt to do. Just to figure out like what score did the player have was such a pain. So I know it's possible, but I think it might be one of those things where Bethesda has some, and you know, some sort of decoding thing, or they have access to something with it that they didn't give us. Because otherwise, I would think by now there'd be somebody who was like porting old Newgrounds games or something to Fallout 4's Pip-Boy, you know what I mean? Just as like as a challenge, because there's all sorts of weird stuff that comes out like that for games where they're just like, I just wanted to see if I could jam content from game X into game Y. And that hasn't happened with the holotape games. I don't think there's a single holotape game from the community. Does anybody, am I wrong there? Does anybody know of any holotape games from the community? I don't think it's happened. But it looks like it should be possible, though, to your point. So yeah, I think you're on. Maybe you'll be the one to solve it. Maybe I'm a bad developer and I can't figure it out. I definitely do not consider myself an amazing developer. I'm just persistent, like, which is half the battle. I think you just got to be willing to slog through a bunch of crap, and you can pull off some cool stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think will be hard to do, but if someone can do it, yeah, I think some cool thing could be done. You know, imagine if you have your own UI for a system like Sim Settlement. Imagine you could have for the HQ, for example. Imagine the UI.
Yeah, being able to like actually have a map you could highlight over and see what the room was and see the stats from that would be amazing. I just don't know how to do that. We're starting to work on some map stuff that I think will be cool, but I don't we can't figure out how to do without F4SE. That's always the trick too. Like once you involve the script extender, you can pretty much do anything you want. But we've limited ourselves because we want to have a similar experience on PC and Xbox. Although it's slowly diverging just because the space issue on Xbox. Like I'm sure, like have you ported Rags and Riches to Xbox, or have you not bothered?
Not yet. I need to install on Xbox because I kind of want to test it. I also have an Xbox, but not yet Fallout 4. So once I have Fallout 4, I think I'll definitely test it because I know the problem of space. For now, I'm not using custom textures. In fact, I tried to avoid it for this particular mode. At least I try to avoid the texture, for Xbox.
Yeah.
I know that for PS4, it's not impossible.
They get nothing.
Yeah, and I play Fallout 76 on PS4, but I know the issue. It seems very difficult.
Yeah, I think with I think a lot of people haven't bothered to port their add-ons to Xbox for SS2 because, especially people who have released since Chapter 2 has been out, because with just Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Xbox players have like 200 megs left. So there's just no room for add-ons. So I've seen a lot of people, I think, just not bother, which is a bummer. I really wish that especially when the new Xboxes came out, it's a real bummer that Bethesda didn't increase the limit. Like, let those Xbox players have some more. Let them break their games, damn it. Why this 2 gig limit? Let them do what they want. Like, that's how we play on PC, right? Like we break our games. That's part of the fun of modding, is seeing how far you can push the envelope.
Yeah. And Xbox, the former Xbox, I think there was ways to mod in some games, but it depends. I think they're more, cautious with Xbox, because back in the day you could do some modding. It could lead to loopholes that could change the
I think
way
that's
the
why
Xbox works.
Yeah, I think that's why Sony didn't allow it. They're like, oh, no. Somebody's going to find a way to do a backdoor and hack our systems, not realizing that Bethesda modding is super, super tight and limited. Like, there are only 3 types of files you can upload to an Xbox, so there's not a whole lot of concern there of somebody being able to hack their system. But yeah, it's a bummer. Poor PlayStation users never get it. I always feel really bad for them when Bethesda advertises a mod in the corner of when you log in, because that happens for PlayStation users too, and then they're just like, they just can't get those mods because anything that Bethesda finds worth advertising is not gonna work on PlayStation, because you're not, without custom assets or custom scripts, you can't do a whole lot of meaningful stuff on the system with the mod.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that limited the custom script. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I knew about the website, but
yeah, if you want to do like any of the mods that do cool stuff on PlayStation, like when they pull it off, they're doing it all just by juggling existing Bethesda scripts and like manipulating them to do it. So some of it's really impressive that they pulled out. Like there's an equivalent of like a Place Anywhere someone managed to do on PS4, and they had to do it all with scripts that Bethesda included already, which is just nuts that they were able to pull it off to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's very you have to be like, I try and limit myself for the sake of Xbox players, but I don't have to limit myself that much. For people who go crazy and get their mods on PS4 too, I'm just like, my hat's off to you. I don't have it in me to go that niche, because that's what you have to make, very small contained mods if you want to release them on PS4.
Yeah.
So
apparently there was a ping pong game for holotape actually.
Oh, so someone has figured something out. I wonder if they...
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I wonder if they released the source as like a proof of concept to be like, here, you guys should go see what you can do with it. Because that's what I expected. I figured people would do more stuff like that, but maybe it's just not that popular, because it's like, why am I in the game playing a Pip-Boy game when I can just play either a way cooler game outside or just be playing Fallout 4 instead of the Pip-Boy game? But for user interface purposes, it seems like it could be a great hack.
Okay, it's Atomic Pong if someone wants to see it. Okay, it's interesting. I will definitely look it up.
Yeah, I bet if they didn't release the source, they'd be open to it at this point if you asked them. Just been like, hey, can you toss me your Flash source so I can figure out how the hell you did this?
Oh yeah, it's possible, because he released it like October of last year. So yeah, probably the guy is still around.
Yeah,
because a lot of people that did
did
modding in the it live.
Yeah. Although I do find people who have left the scene, if you can get hold of them, are much more open to like seeing like, oh yeah, use the content of my mod, because they just don't care anymore. Whereas people who are like actively developing tend to be a little more guarded, which I get it. All right, so let's go to let me catch up on some chat. We'll get some conversation going from the audience here. So Sehuai, seeing how you have some connections to BGS, do you really think a F404 special edition will happen? Seems like BGS has moved on from F404 completely and would rather support 76. I think if we don't get a special edition of F4 like with enhanced engine like that, whether we get that or not, I think will be dependent on how much effort it requires. Like I think special edition for Skyrim, I think because of how closely related the engines are between F04 and Skyrim, it was not that big a deal for them to make that port. So I think that will determine if we get an actual special edition. We will 100% get like a 10-year anniversary edition that includes like all the CK content. Like there's no way they don't do that. They saw it was successful. They're selling legendary edition copies of Skyrim. They'll definitely do it for F04. Because F04, as much as like, people rag on it and be like, oh, it's not as good as New Vegas or whatever. It was it has like it's the record. I think it's like in the top 3 or top 4 games of concurrent players for Steam. Like it was a huge release. Like they sold so many copies of Fallout 4. So it was considered a very successful game from their perspective. They made a lot of money on it, so there's no way they don't try and dip their toes in again on some sort of anniversary. I hope we'll get like a special edition with engine enhancements, but I think it'll come down to is how many employees do they have to throw at it to pull it off. Let's see here, and then there's a lot of comments about your volume being too loud, which I think we've got that in check here. Let's see. John Getty is, I like how you like getting us hyped during a trailer, and then we get available now. We spend the next 2 hours fixing our loaders so we can play new content. See how far behind I am on chat, guys? That was probably back when I was talking about Bethesda's launch cycle, which I think was before I even pulled you onto the call, Foxel. Let's see here. Oscar Fry. So this... My chat did my normal jump thing. Oscar Fry. So this is my last question before I go and play FO4 SS2. Can we have a quest to unlock dual-wielding pistol option for Jake? No. So dual wielding, unfortunately, like the people who have pulled it off, like Nihur has some mods, dual wielding is actually a hack where it's not two individual of the same weapon. You actually have to create a new set of animations that use a new model that's just both weapons. So it's not like you can just dual wield any particular mods. Like the few weapons that are available to dual wield always are the same weapon because it requires a whole set of models. So it's not actually two different weapons. It's one weapon that the art is designed to look like two weapons. So dual wielding, like in a classic sense, is not actually possible in Fallout 4. Let's see. More volume concerns. Yeah, lots more volume concerns. Going down. Carvox says Foxel, Raider skins when? For Regs and Riches.
Soon.
Those were one of the first. Those were like the first skin we ever did for SS1. We put the Raider skins in to make them look like, just put heads on a pike and you're done. Like just add a few heads on pikes outside the building. Boom, Raider skin. Let's see. Quester WI, please make Caleb immoral. I assume you mean immortal. He's supposed to be protected. So like if he can die. That and I think we saw in your chat you confirmed he is protected. That means you killed him somewhere along the way. So maybe not intentional. But all of our most NPCs in the game, other than like the companions, are protected. Like that's just the default. We try any of ours for our main quest line we have set up as essential instead of protected, but everybody else we try to follow the path of the main game, which is if the character's not pertinent to our main quest line, to one of our major quest lines, we let you kill them. And so like the conquered quests are all none of that's pertinent. It's all just it's all side content. So and it doesn't have a big long quest line for any particular character, so we let you kill them if you want. So if people who hate Caleb, we want them to be able to shoot him in the head because he is not a great guy necessarily when you see what he's doing. Let's see, Oscar Fry, I buy all the CC stuff when they were up for free. That's another thing with you were talking about wanting to do some Creation Club content. Almost all of it except for the high dollar stuff has been free at some point. So a lot of it you could make building plans for, and you'd have a surprisingly high number of people who can use it. Did you see, Foxel, that most of the way we have add-on packs rigged up is you can also, if you wanted to add something to your existing plan or to your pack without making it a hard requirement, it is possible to do. It's difficult, but it's definitely possible. So, or you can just release it as like a NESL file that's just like, here's my building plan that requires Slocum Joe's, or here's my building plan that requires the Nucola Cafe, etc.
Yeah, definitely trying my way to soft requirement, which is a game changer actually, because you can go crazy and okay, if you have this pack or this mod, you have this additional content. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out, but I think I'm close to pull it out. So it's good. It's a very good idea. That's
a fun way to do things. I like that idea of having the existing building plans just getting extra little flourishes because you happen to have certain DLC or whatever. That's not, or even other mods. That was another thing that would be cool. Just tapping into some of that other content is a fun way to go. Let's see here. Carvok, you already have background noise that is also meme worthy. My daughter was killed by a rad roach. That's true. We do have some of that stuff, but it was supposed to be tuned, and this is we keep tinkering with the volume. So a lot of that stuff, it was supposed to be the only way you could catch those bits is if you really pay attention. It wasn't supposed to be in your face. It was, the volume was such. If it's still too loud, then we can tinker with the volumes. But yeah, I agree. Some of that stuff is all of that. In fact, almost every bit of that background dialogue that you can hear from the soundscape is intentionally written to be really funny, because it was stuff we didn't expect most people to make out. It was going to be you just hear did I just hear somebody talking? And then if you actually stop and listen to the sound, they're all of the little conversations are silly. Question WI, teach me what I need to know and I will take on the Concord Museum. That would be, yeah, what a cool project, right? That would be, I think a lot of people would love to see that. So if you're feeling froggy, Foxel, and you want to assemble a team, I'm sure you would have a lot of people excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about the museum actually.
Yeah, it would be a really cool project. Oh, and then Quester said the same thing again. Teach me about the Conquer Museum. Okay, cool. All caught up on the messages. That's a rarity for me. Usually I'm like, it gets to like midnight and I have still 10 questions to go. So feeling proud there. So with the stuff you've released so far, are you getting the feedback you hoped for? Like, I think that's one of those double-edged swords when people release content, and I think a lot of people get nervous too of like, you know, you're worried about, you know, everyone's afraid of the negative commentary, but the other side of it is you can get encouragement. It can be like, you know, people excited about your stuff and encourage you, and they're like, oh, people like what I'm doing, and it'll motivate you to do. Are you getting a good balance there of like people giving you the positive encouragement against people who are maybe critical? Are you getting a good mix?
Well, I have not critic for. I didn't have bad comments for now, or you know, bug reports. Not a lot of them. So
Good.
I was really surprised. And well, actually, I was expecting more comments because there was something that don't work in my mod. You know, there was some clutter that looked crazy, but it's fixed now. It's in 2.0.
Nice.
But what was really nice for me was when I mentioned my mod, someone was telling me, you know, in Discord, like, yeah, I like that in your mod. You're doing that. Okay, it's cool. You know my mod, and I've seen one or two creation city plan that actually uses the create houses. I was like, oh, it's my plot. It's my plot.
yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, and those.
So it's really encouraging.
It's fun to see I'm glad the city plan designers embrace all the add-on packs for the buildings. So then when they're doing their tours, you get to see these just beautiful settlements full of all, like showcasing everybody's add-on buildings. It's really cool to see. That's one of the things that's like one of the things that keeps me wanting to keep Sim Settlements open. And making sure people can plug in their content and stuff, because it's fun to see what people can do with it. And like, cause like the designs that we ship with, like our designs are kind of like the low hanging fruit. Like we do the obvious easy stuff, and then you guys come up with all sorts of creative ways to expand on it. So I'm glad that people are still embracing it like you. And still able to come up with still unique ideas. So that's awesome. I'm glad you're still feeling excited about it, and that we haven't run out of stuff that can be created. And it sounds like you still got more ideas coming down the hopper. So that makes me very happy. So what are you thinking for city plan wise? I think you said you were going to do some city plans. Are you talking about the city plan contest, or are you going to do a set to release as a mod yourself?
For now, I'm doing a set because I've seen there is contest, but I was too busy with the Dragon Witches. I'm like, okay, I'm sitting this one out, and then I saw that there was a special city plan contest. So I'm like, okay, let's wait, because it's something that I would like with the city plans is having the thing with the plot that you want. And for some ideas of city plan, I'm actually thinking, okay, I need this type of plot, but they don't exist yet, so I have to make them.
So you can build yourself the perfect add-on, and then the day after it releases, then you enter the city plan contest and crush. That sounds like a good plan. We used to have people there were some people who would enter the city plan contest who were add-on authors, and they had done, and we put a rule against this in the Masters contest, but they were creating new building plans and using them in their city plans before releasing them, which was fine. It was fine by me. Like, it was like, oh, well, those are all assets that are available in the game. They're not making new stuff. It's all stuff that's available in the vanilla kit. But yeah, that would not be the first time, and I think it's a fun way to go. You plan out your city design, and if you make chunks of it into building plans, then everybody gets to reap the rewards later. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and actually the city contest is good because it quite limits the number of items. Because something that put me off, sadly, is that some people do the city plans, it's good, but sometimes there are a lot of requirements, for how can I say, for plot mod. They're like, okay, it's a lot of plot mod, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that's part of the built-in design of some settlements that helps with that, is all those building plans are optional, because if you're missing them, the city plan code will just replace them with something that is available. Now there are exceptions, like for example, if you know, some of the niche plot types, like, you know, 1x1 tax collection, like there's probably only one, if any, of those. So then if that was the choice, or like, you know, there's just not a ton of 1x1 municipal, period. So if there's a 1x1 municipal plot that requires a certain add-on pack, you might just end up with a plot that can't do anything. But for the most part, especially with 2x2s, like even if you don't have the add-on packs the city plans require, they don't actually require them, right? Because the city plan will just be like, all right, well, SS2 has a bunch of default building plans we can use. So that's, I mean, that's to me is that's why city plans work as well as they do, is because of the fallback, so that those aren't required. Because the difference between city plans and you know, transfer settlements layouts is transfer settlements layouts, you effectively had to like download this giant load order from somebody, and that was a big turnoff. Whereas if people stick their city plans to just using our build kit, they can, you know, anybody can use them, which is great.
Yeah, the fallback is very great for that, because you don't have hard limitations. So yeah, that's a really good thing about that.
It does feel like when you look at them at a glance, though, you see the list of, and it's like, oh man, that's going to take a while to download. I do feel you on that. That's one of the reasons that we like to do those the packs of city plans, is because then people don't think about that. It's like this pack is not going to have any requirements listed. You'll find out when you play it that it's like, oh, this would look better if I had, you know, other add-on packs, but you know, they'll still function. And I think that's because, yeah, some of the city plans, when I look at their descriptions, I'm like, whoa, that looks intimidating, but I know that it won't actually matter if you don't have those. It'll still build. So I think you don't have to worry about that as much, of like, if you want to start building them and use all those add-on packs, you don't have to list them as requirements, because they're soft requirements, really. It's like, to get this, if you want it to look like the screenshots, then yeah, you got to have these. But that, I think that also depends on the city plan designer too. Like some people lean real heavily on the plot building plan designs, and then so without those add-on packs, you're not going to get anything close. But you know, then others will lean more on the individual items, and then the building plans just kind of add flavor and extra to it. So I think it depends on how you design them. So like if you wanted to, you know, if your goal was to solve that problem, be like, I want to design city plans that do not require a bunch of stuff, you know, you could design with a lot more hand-placed items and less reliant on the actual building on the plot, and then you could pull that look off, right? So then whether or not they have the building plans you did, it can still look nice.
Yeah, there is a city plans that are actually like that. I'm thinking about, you know, the island of Far Harbor, you know, Longfellow cabin. I think a lot of that was placed by hand. I think that if you don't have the good plot, it still look pretty close to the image. So
yeah, that's what like I know we did that with the base level plans. I think there's definitely a lot more. I think when you look at a lot of the ones that are winning the city plan competitions, I think they do both, right? I think the winners tend to be like very particular with the building plans they choose, and then they flesh those into their designs. But then there's also a lot of manual placement as well. I think even without the correct plans installed, you can still get something that looks really cool. But it just, like, to get those like beautiful screenshots and videos, it's working doing a little bit of both. You want to use specific building plans and build around them too. So the way I look at it is one of the things I've been bummed we haven't been able to create the tools for yet is the ability to take chunks of a city plan and export them as building plans. Because like another way you could approach what you were talking about, you were saying like, oh, I have an idea for, you know, this thing, but the building plan doesn't exist for it. Like, wouldn't it be cool if you could just design the settlement exactly how you imagine, and then take a little chunk of it and be like, now let's turn that into a building plan that we can then share with other people. Like that would have been, that's like the tools we're missing that I regret so much we haven't had the time to do so. Because that would be, then you could design your ultimate city, like your perfect settlement, and then take the chunks that would be like, this would make a nice building, pull it out of there, and keep repeating that process. I think that would be the best. Because some of these, sometimes you see people's city plan designs, or even their settlement designs, like transfer settlements, and you're like, oh man, that little chunk would make an awesome building.
Yes, so much. Especially the city plans that have some interaction, you know, that pop certain parts when you have done some quest, something like that. And you're like, okay, we need that.
yeah, for sure. I actually wish that would be another spot where I think there's a weakness in the tools where I could enhance. There would be to make that stuff a little easier for city plan designers to use. Because there's a lot of it. I have the code in place and it doesn't require any scripting on their part, where they could set up parts of the city plan to appear in response to things. Like the code all exists for that. We did it for the for our Longfellow's cabin build of our Eyes of the Commonwealth. There's like a whole museum that appears in reaction to stuff. So there is a whole system in place that city plan designers could use, but I think it's too intimidating to learn. That'll be an edge you have too, because you've already learned all of the pack stuff. You know, I assume you've already learned the usage requirements and the unlock things. Have you gone over those tutorials? Yeah. So you can use those with city plans. Yeah. So it's like that. You have an edge there. If once you get into the city plans, you'll be able to do some cool stuff like that to make yours stand out.
Yeah, because I really like this aspect that was added by Sim Settlement was the reactive aspect of your plot or the cities. For Longfellow cabin, I really like that you could go back to the settlement because you were like, okay, I did that quest, so what did it add to the museum? And you were happy to see, it's some kind of achievement, you're like, okay, you got a new statue or a new pieces that you unlocked, so yeah, it's great. We're driven by endorphin actually when playing games.
Yeah, it's little simple stuff like that. It feels so good. Doesn't require much to give a little hit of dopamine, I hope that when you get into city plans, you'll embrace your knowledge of other stuff. I think it's Carvok who's had some ideas for some of that stuff, but just didn't know how to do it. Where it was just like, man, I wish I could convince more city plan designers to go learn the toolkit, the add-on toolkit. Even if they didn't go all in on it and make add-ons like you're doing, just having the knowledge of some of the cursory systems, because they're all intertangled, is that you can actually use a lot of that stuff in your city plans as well. Same thing will happen with HQ too. There's a lot of crossover of like some of the stuff from building plans. Once we release the code for add-ons, you'll be able to use it there too. I think with World Repop, it's not quite as entangled, but at least the usage requirements on unlock system are consistent across the board. So just knowing those, you can use those if you ever get into any of that stuff. So that was actually an argument we had in development over, and I get what the argument is, no fault of the other person I had this argument with they had come up with a more advanced version of our usage requirement system, but it was like, everybody already knows the usage requirement system. Like, yours is better, yes, but like let's embrace the knowledge everybody has, let them expand on it, and that's why is why I'm a stickler for that, because I love to see as people get in deeper, like they go further down the rabbit hole of some settlements, that they're empowered to do more and more stuff. So I'm glad to hear that you are interested in doing city plans. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth saying you're going to do all these things. I'm just trying to encourage you to do them, because I think that's like you'd be in a unique space. There's not a whole lot of people who have done add-on packs who are also releasing city plans.
Yeah, it's definitely an idea, but
yeah,
like I said, I need to do that, then that.
Right. Yeah, I get you. I'm just excited when I hear an add-on pack author get excited, say they're interested in city plans. I get excited because I'm like, oh, somebody else who might play with all these toys we built. But your focus right now is rags to riches. I will leave the audience with that of like, there's no saying that he's going to do all this stuff. I'm trying to encourage him to do it right now. So
that's definitely the next step after 2.0. I definitely doing city plans. That's the thing.
Okay. We'll have to wait patiently. So yeah, but it's nice to see some new people coming to SS2 and building stuff. We had a lot of ports, and you're one of the few who has released a new add-on pack. So I'm glad that we've still got people excited about building for it. I know like I said this earlier, a lot of the excitement for modding that invited new people to mod, who were just like, I've never modded before, I'm excited about the Sim Settlements idea, like that has passed. So now it's just like people who are doing it now are people who are just passionate about it. So glad to have you in the community, man. Really appreciate
yeah, thanks.
Working part of it. And you're always very helpful on the Discord, even if it's stuff you don't know. You're still helpful.
Yeah, so I also was in the beta with the bug, the reset. You should remember, like, okay, I got my HQ reset. What? Oh, okay, it's not going to happen again.
Well, sometimes that's all good.
The HQ.
All right, going back to some chat here. Z Games, who is the singer for Cindy, and does she really buff the recruiting or trade rate? If so, that is pretty cool. I don't think she buffs it. The singer, I would have to go, goes by Artie on YouTube. You can check out some of her stuff, and I I have her real name on the credits. I don't recall it offhand. But if you go check on wiki.simsettlements2.com, you can find the name of the singer and probably a link to her YouTube channel or to her Twitter or whatever social media she gave us. I think the quest you do for Cindy is just for fun. It's just she'll sing about you. I don't think it actually adds any buff or anything. It's one of those things where I think when it was originally written, we were talking about that, and then we don't have the hooks for it, so it never ended up happening. But it's mostly flavor for now. She's a really good singer. I like her a lot. Let's see. Mod Hunter 42. There are several mods that will clone just a few pieces. I'm not sure what that was related to. Something else I said. It even lets you paste in the game and say if I was. Oh yeah. There's like the you can copy paste. Yeah. Workshop Framework or Workshop Plus is one of them that does that. And then there's Clipboard, which is another one. But saving them for export. What we would need to get that functionality is we would need to export those from the settlement into the creation kit, which currently we don't have a workflow for that. Carvac, I have so many ideas. I think that was us talking about the hooking city plans in with the usage requirements and stuff. Let's see, Quester WI. I talked to the BOS book guy and had the books. Got the pop-up for his home in the library. I built him his house. Which plot type is his library? I tried to store plot. I believe it's recreational. I think libraries are a intelligence training building plan is what we use those for. I think his is one of the few building plans that's a straight upgrade from our basic one. I think his allows an additional person to be trained at it. Like usually I tend not to do that because I don't want min-maxers to feel like they should always use a higher end. Usually we want some sort of requirement, and I think his is one of the few that breaks that mold. Or it actually is, if you're a min-maxer, it's just straight up better to use his. Awesome. So, Foxel, so what are you excited about as far as Starfield's concerned? This is something I love to talk about with fellow Bethesda enthusiasts. Are you on board for it? Are you into the Skyrim in space idea, or is that not going to be your jam?
Actually, I started with the Morrowind, in something like 20 years ago. I started modding with Morrowind, so Bethesda. I do like the games, so Starfield I'm also interested to see what it will offer. But yeah, I started with all Morrowind. I skipped Oblivion actually and went straight to Skyrim. I did some mods for Morrowind back in the day.
Okay.
But oh my god, I don't want to look at the code because I did. It was the creation kit ancestor. And I remember doing rush edit. I just modified the map without concern. Sometimes I moved object, but I saved, even if I had no use for that.
I do the same thing. I hang on to all my old mod files, even if it's like there's no one's gonna ever play this game again, or like I'm never gonna load these up again. I can't throw them out.
Yeah, it's also in the day, mods. You could have mods for just your friend, So yeah,
right.
So it wasn't. For the great public, I think I had some like 20, 30 people that played the mod that I make back in the days. But it's okay, it was fun.
It's great.
Because
there's still people making mods for Morrowind today. It's just nuts. Like you said, 20. What's that? 20? Is it 20 years old now? Is it or is it older than that?
I think it's quite old.
That feels so long ago. I remember playing that. God, yeah, that feels like forever ago. But yeah, there's still like they have a modding competition on Nexus for Morrowind periodically. Like they'll do modding game jams for Morrowind still. It's like, this is nuts. What's going on here? Because like that game's hard to look at now. I guess though, like retro style gaming with like intentional old art is so popular now that maybe people are just like, they've gotten beyond the visuals, and it's just I can't get beyond them. I have trouble playing those old Bethesda games now. Because like the memories are great, but the nostalgia only carries you so far.
Yeah, it was very easy to make a quest. Actually, I remember that I didn't have a lot of difficulties to make a quest with the. You didn't have necessarily a voice file. They had NPC that would only write, so it was easy, to say, okay, I'm going to write that quest, and he's talking to me by writing. It was okay back in the day. Now, I think if you put some NPC in Fallout that only write, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the reasons that modding, I think, slows down as the games get more advanced, is because people, I think everybody deep down wants to hold themselves to the standard of the company, but it gets harder and harder to do. Like some of these, like thankfully Bethesda did a pretty good job of their the dialogue having automated motion. You know, like if you ever notice, like a lot of when our NPCs are talking in the quests in SS2, they'll move their hands and stuff, and we don't have to do that. But if we had to, like, you know, if that was all manually mocapped, we would never be able to keep up with the production value, because it's like the cost would get outrageous. It's already hard enough to keep up, just with getting, you know, decent quality voice actors and and you know, writing that's not cringy. Like just getting that combination is a lot. So yeah, with every advancement in game tech, modding becomes harder and harder. So yeah, older games like that would be easier to mod just from because their technical limitations end up being a benefit to hobbyists, right? Because then you're not expected to do all this crazy work to get it to just feel at home.
Yeah, so much. There was you know, when there was in 2D games, you have a top vision, so you don't have to care about motion capture and things like that. Today, and I really can see that in the lot of efforts that were put in SS2. You know, when you have a Jake that have to move to talk, so like okay, a lot of work. But yeah, it's good that Bethesda did automation, you know, for some movements. It's really great.
It is. I mean, I think that's one of the things I feel like when I'm talking about Starfield, like I'm excited to get in. I can't wait to, like, there's no way. I shouldn't say there's no way they make a bad game. Like obviously, like Fallout 76 is very divisive. But honestly, I think had Fallout 76 been single player, like all of the then the problems would have all not been there. Like it's still, like, now that I've played through all the quest lines and stuff, it's a totally enjoyable experience. It's fun to explore that world. But it was buggy and like the multiplayer factor. But I think like when they're making a single player game, they know how to do a fun to explore game. Like they know. So like I see something like Starfield and I'm like, even though I'm not into space games usually, I'm gonna love the hell out of that game. Because Bethesda's really good at that stuff, and they seem to always systemize their games too. Like most of their stuff you can mod is all systemized, so you don't have to do a ton of work to make decent quality content. Obviously, like I said, like voice acting, you know, getting the right talent is a challenge. But I bet they're gonna have that automated mocap stuff will be even better in Starfield and whatever, you know, in TES 6. So it sounds like you're more of a you'd be more into another TES game than a new franchise or whatnot. If you're an old hand with Morrowind, did you release content? You said you did mods for Morrowind. Did you do any for Skyrim?
I don't think I did. Actually, back when I was in Skyrim, I was less in modding and more like, yeah, let's pack the 100 of mods and see if it survives. And it was ridiculous because it was not low-breaking mods, but I had mods like, you know, where you could recruit the whole of the companion, you know, the first group that you meet in the city that are warriors, and I had like 20 companions and just slaughter everything. It was unbalanced. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so easy to make these games unbalanced. I mean, like that's your goal anyway, right? You play a Bethesda game, your goal is to get super powered so that you can go back to those zones that kicked your butt earlier and just womp the crap out of them. That's part of the fun.
I'm not gonna lie, I play Fallout 4 in Survivor, so when I do the Sim Settlement 2 quest, you know, at the start when you have to go to Olivia Station, you have a Jake that follows you, and sometimes I admit that I take him for a ride into Diamond City.
Go do some other quests while you got him. Like, I need a buddy here. Yeah, because his gun is super powered, so like that's one of the I've talked about this on stream before, is one of the reasons that we give our NPCs really powerful weapons is because the vanilla system, we want them to have a gun that feels right with their character, but the vanilla code makes it so NPCs always loot and use whatever the highest damage gun is. So it's like, so we got to keep our character guns like really high damage so that they don't grab dumb things. Like we don't want them grabbing fat men because that's just awful.
Yeah, I've seen videos of people that are exploiting, you know, Travis from Diamond City Radio. There's a quest where he follows you.
Yeah.
So I saw people that exploit it and managed to reverse pickpocket him to give him Fat Man and put him in power more.
Nice. Take him with you to fight everybody. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Travis in the Institute, but you could still hear him talking Diamond City Radio.
That's awesome. The one thing the problem I always had with Skyrim modding is I tend to get, because it's such a great catalog of mods, like Like, even though, like, I think there's a similar number of mods available for Fallout 4 and for Skyrim. And definitely Skyrim has more, but not by a ton. But the number of quality mods for Skyrim dwarfs Fallout 4. And so, like, I tend to build a load order that's got so much cool stuff I can do that I don't even know where to start. Or I'm just like, they have so many combat abilities and so many, like, alternate systems that I get overwhelmed to be like, I need someone to create a, like, this is why I'm really excited about Wabbajack and mod collections, is like, I need someone to create a curated experience for me, because I do a terrible job of it myself. I just want to say, yes, give me that, give me that, give me that. Like, download, like, give me the top 500 mods. They're all awesome looking. Do you find a similar problem when you sit down and play a modded game anymore?
Yeah, it's with Skyrim especially, and other game. Not so much with Fallout 4, because I start modding it, so I know what could go wrong, and I look, no, let's put this mod together.
Yeah.
Because I could think about a lot of mods in Fallout 4 that are great by themselves, but you should not try to combine them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I do like with Paradox game a lot. So yeah, I know about excessive mod installation.
It's still fun to see, and it's fun to try. Like, I actually, like, I have done it on Let's Plays of doing crazy modded Fallout 4 Let's Plays. It's fun to do it. But yes, I am, like, in my general playthroughs now, though, like, this is now what I'm going to do to actually play through content. Is like, I'm going to play with, like, 12 mods, because I know how easily things can go south, because I'm so into the engine for modding it. I feel you on that. It's harder to get yourself to go crazy than a game where it's like, although, have you played Skyrim since you learned how to mod Fallout 4?
Yeah, I did play a bit, not too long, but I did. But I feel like that a lot of mods in Skyrim are more for flavor, and there is mods that touch mechanism, but a bit less than Fallout, especially with the magic system in Skyrim. I think it feels more open than the weapons of Fallout.
Yeah. Did you find while you were playing through it last that you start to see some of the systems and you're like, I know how that's done now, because you've now got the experience under your belt modding with Fallout 4?
Yeah.
I can't help myself of, like, dissecting those systems. Like, I'm actually a little concerned it's gonna lower my experience with Starfield of being like, I know how they did it. Like, for 76, when Bethesda, anytime there was something like a little bit off, I'm like, I know exactly why that's weird or why that's wonky, because of this part of the engine or how this works. Or sometimes I was watching it, I'd play 76 Quest and I'd be like, I could have done that better, which is a little frustrating, but also I appreciate more of the really good stuff. Like now having modded Fallout 4, I really, really appreciate the fact that you get to choose your ending for Fallout 4 with the factions. Like, that's so much work that they did to pull that off. So I appreciate some stuff more, but then I also am a little more judgy on other stuff.
Yeah, they did a lot of things in 76 that I still play it. I'm like, okay, they did that, okay. For some parts, and sometimes I'm a bit frustrated when I see some improvement that they done in 76, which is also why I'm hoping for a re-release of Fallout 4, for anniversary.
Yeah.
Because then quality of life that is, oh my god, when I came back to Fallout 4, I was like, oh no, I can't drink this Nuka-Cola that I just picked.
Yeah.
Because
for sure. Yeah, that I love that feature. Somebody put that where you can just drink it off the ground. Somebody added that feature to Fallout 4. Actually, there's a mod that does that.
Oh,
yeah, it's
good.
really, really awesome mod. In fact, that mod came out before 76. It came out, and I was like, oh, I've done this before. I remember that mod. That was a really good mod. Excuse me. I think what would make an awesome release for Bethesda, I doubt they'll do it, but maybe, who knows? They might spread, because like they have so many subsidiaries now, like so many studios that are called Bethesda Studios that help them. I think would be an awesome, like, 10-year anniversary Fallout 4. You do a engine update that's like, we took the 76 engine, we turned it into a co-op. Here's Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 3 all playable in co-op. Like, that to me would be an insane, like, combo pack they could do. Even if it was like the old art. Like, just don't even do a remake or a remaster. Like, give us the old, like, they probably could do a remaster of the textures easily. Like, I'm sure they have higher res original textures available, but do that. Give us co-op and all those old Fallout games. That would sell. You could sell that for full price. That could be a $60 game right there. I would buy the crap out of that. Even if I never played in co-op, just like it would be cool to have the ability. It would be like, oh, this feels good. And then the engine improvements, obviously, for some of that stuff you talked about. There's UI improvements, there's lighting improvements, like the draw distance improvements. Like there's no denying that the visuals, like when you're standing on some of the mountains in West Virginia, are incredible. There's some great views in that game engine.
Yeah, the photo is especially, the system of the photo, the camera. It's great with 76 because you really have outstanding views. You can have nice view in Fallout 4, but distance of vision is more limited, I think.
Yeah,
And
the LOD seems to kick in way sooner in Fallout 4 than it does in 76. So.
Yeah, you can see the simplified sanctuary, and like, oh no, I can see that.
I do think that for whatever reason, I don't know what they changed in 76. I think up close, Fallout 4 looks better than 76, but at a distance, 76 looks way better. Like when I'm looking at NPCs or buildings up close, or like when I'm working in camp mode, I'm always like, man, I feel like my settlements in Fallout 4 look way better. And I don't know if they reduce if it's textures or what or maybe it's like the default like the stylized choice they did for like the overlay for the graphical overlays. There's always some sort of post-processing, and like maybe I don't like the post-processing of 76. I don't know what it is. Something about it. Do you feel that way? I feel like 76 up close looks worse than Fallout 4, or am I crazy?
I think it does, but I play in PS4, so I like accepting it. I play Fallout 4 on PC, and
so of course
my PC it's PS4. It's okay. Yeah. But perhaps I would feel that way if I played in PC actually, because improvement and you expect something that look better on PC if you put all on ultra mode.
True. That is true. But yeah, maybe they're ultra. Maybe it is like a straight up. Ultra mode in 76 is necessarily toned down because you have to deal with other players, and like maybe the performance would just be too bad. But I don't know. I've always felt like when I'm playing 76, I feel like this feels like a downgrade to my graphics. But I've been curious. I don't talk to a lot of other 76 players. I don't even play anymore. I haven't played in like 6 months. I was playing when they were still releasing story content. I was like going through that and very happy. But then I got to the end game and finished all the story content, and now I'm like, oh, this is an MMO. I can't do this. This is bad news for me.
That's
I have
addiction
problem. I have addiction problems with MMOs, so I try and stay away from them.
Yeah, because I also finished the game, so I'm like, okay, let's do this season. Okay, but it's a bit stale,
Yeah. The game board thing got me for one game board, and then when I started doing another one, I'm like, nope, that is too much of a grind. I do not have that in me. Because I think the first one was easier because I was doing it while playing story content. So you know what would be really cool for them to add as a feature, and it would be like a cheap feature for them to add, would be letting you do New Game Plus, like restart the story with your same character and all your equipment. Just run back through the story. I think that would be a really easy feature for them to add. Like just unflag all those quests is done. Some people would get to double dip on some stuff, but who cares, right? Like, let them have multiple copies of these equipment. It's not like the you don't have to let them you can still keep the Atom rewards locked out and just let people get like, everybody hits the caps max by the time, like the max caps by the time they reach their the end game area. It's not hard to hit that. So, I don't know. I think that would be a nice feature.
Yeah. There is not a lot of money sink in the game, so yeah, you reach that quite quickly actually.
Right. So it's not like you can break that game's economy, right? Like, it's already. Nope. I don't think that game has a good economy at all. It's
nope.
It's just it's like, do you have it's just like fishing for legendary rolls, right? Like that's the only, whenever I would go to people's stores, it's just like, do you got a legendary I'm looking for? Nope. All right, I'm out.
Yeah, it does lack plans, which is bad, but sometimes it's really frustrating because you see some assets that they made for 76, with this wallpaper, this tool, like, okay, let's go, let's find it in Fallout 4. Nope, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, because when it first came out, it was everything you'd see, but like, oh, I know where that is, that's Fallout 4, and now it's quickly broken free from that because they have so much content you can buy in that store.
Yeah. Actually, since the economic model, they did provide a lot of new content, but yeah, it's a paywall, so
Yeah.
Some likes, some don't.
I have so many unused atoms because I was like, I'm so cheap with it. I'm like, I'm only buying things with the achievement atoms. I'm only buying things that like I'm actually going to build in my camp. And then because of how short the limit was, like that did not take long. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm just going to have atoms rotting. And I just saw I have like 15,000 left or something. Like I just had to do the transfer of my Bethesda account. Like I don't know if you guys, if you didn't see this, I tweeted it out today. You have until like mid-May to transfer your Bethesda launcher games to Steam, so go do that if you haven't done it already. But it showed on there how many atoms I had left, and it turned out I was like, oh, I own Doom Eternal. Didn't even know I bought that. I think I played it for like an hour. Not because I like Doom, but it didn't suck me in. I actually find it more enjoyable to watch people play Doom Eternal because it's so impressive. But I forgot I owned it, and forgot I had like 15,000 atoms just rotting in my account.
Ouch, that's a lot.
Yeah. But there's not, I don't know. For me, there's not enough good stuff. Like I don't use power armor on my character, so the power armor skins are useless. And like I like the clothes I have, so even the few clothing skins they have a very maybe it's changed because I haven't been played in 6 months, but I felt like they didn't have any. They didn't have very many weapon skins available. Like it was very limited number. So like the weapons I was using, I couldn't find a cool skin for. So it was basically like my clothes. And then I always have preferred, I've talked about this when I play my Let's Play, like I prefer the ragtag, like janky armor look. So I don't even want the clothing skins because then those cover up my crappy mix of armor. Like I want like tight skinned clothing so that I can have like something underneath all my janky pieces of armor. That's the Fallout 4 look, or the Fallout look for me.
Yeah, a lot of assets of Fallout 6, especially for the Atom Shop.
Yeah.
They're more like modern or clean or superheroes. Yeah, it's cool, but it can be a bit low-breaking. Although I do have a cam that is a widescreen, the golf. Yeah. So my character is basically a snob that with his golf club and
nice.
Get out of my lawn style.
Nice. Yeah, I think that was the other problem I had with the camp stuff. Is like I would always buy the stuff that looked like it belonged in the wasteland, but most of it is really clean looking. And I'm like, nah, that's not for me. You guys have seen how I designed buildings in some settlements by default. I like core. Like our rule is like if it's a commercial or municipal or residential, it gets to use corrugated steel or corrugated metal and wood planks. Like those are your building materials. Figure it out. And like so because I love it. I think what instilled that in me is like for me the Fallout look now, at least in 3D, is Fallout 3. In Fallout 3 everything was like concrete, corrugated metal, and like chunks of wood, and like so like now that to me is like the definitive. I want everything to look like Megaton, just maybe a little more colorful.
yeah. Plain ports becoming a city. Yeah. That was something I remember saying Megaton. And like, oh my god, they did pulled out this plane. It's the city.
Yeah.
Actually, I try to use that in my skins. First level being corrugated, then wood, then bricks for the full level.
Oh, nice. I like that. I do like. Well, that was one of the things that we tried to solve with SS1 versus SS2. So like during Conqueror, we came up with the classes idea of the building plan classes, and we just went all in on it for SS2. Was like I like the idea that there's an avenue for people to get nice looking stuff, right? Like I like there's an immersive path of like, okay, well if you build up an industrial empire, then why shouldn't you be able to eventually like be manufacturing fresh steel and fresh paint and stuff and then having the nice ones? And that's where those advanced and high tech came in. It was like, oh, I could see like it will feel legit to the player if by the time they get to high tech, power plants, that they could just look clean as hell. It's all stuff that was manufactured by their earlier levels. So like I don't object to non-wastelandy looking stuff, but I want to have to earn it. I don't want it to just be like, you just everything you build from scratch is just pretty. I want to feel like I earned my way there. And then I'm okay with it. That's my head canon. That's what lets me get there. Do you have the same reticence, or are you happy like when you're designing stuff for your building plans? do you allow yourself to use clean materials for the few that are available in the game, or are you a stickler for I want it to look wastelandy?
Actually, I'm first level. All my plans here from Dragon to Riches. Actually, first step, they're taking broken stuff, broken steel, and things like that. It's look like a lot of wasteland. Step 2, it's like more wood that is treated, so they begin to craft, but it's slow. And only in stage 3 you can have more or less clean things. Not totally clean, but cleaner,
Cleanish,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's like you have to own it. Like first step, I'm surviving. Steps 2, okay, I'm beginning to craft some basic carpentry. And step 3, okay, I'm enjoying myself. I'm settled, and I have what I need.
Yeah.
So I try to copy the process.
So the theme's baked right into the name, Rags to Riches. Okay, so that's why you went with that. It makes sense. I didn't catch on to that. I just was like, that's a nice name for an add-on pack. I like it because you could, it doesn't have to be by the levels. You could just say there's some slums and there's some nice buildings. But do all your buildings follow that pattern of like they start out like trash heaps and turn into nice places?
Yeah, I'm trying to do three step, and it's enjoyable, because of a start, it's you imagine the settlers taking, okay, this is a bus stop, we'll take it for a shelter, okay, we'll make some wood, it's better to be covered, and in the end they enjoy themselves, and it's funny. It's a lot of fun, actually.
You could like make a little story for it, which can help inspire the design choices, which is nice. And then I think for those building plans will be nice to come back and visit the updates because they're like, oh, I wonder what material I used this time. Like with our building plans, when they upgrade, it tends to be like, well, you get an extra chunk on top, but it's the same building materials. So having a totally different set of building materials, that's got to make for interesting upgrades for people to come visit. I think that would also make your building plans especially nice in city plans because then they can really show the city evolving, right? Like if your goal is to have a city plan where it starts out as, like what I've got in front of me here, and then evolves into something that looks, like it would be at home in, not necessarily pre-war, but maybe like a pre-war slum, like where everything, the buildings are still together, but they're not perfectly clean, that you could pull that off with a set of building plans designed like yours, where it's designed to improve the materials. Like that would be nice. That seems like it would be go really good with a city plan whose goal was to do a similar thing, because I think there's enough pieces in the build kit between DLC and the Wasteland Reconstruction Kit to do that. Like you could definitely build a city plan where you replaced like all the walls and floor pieces each level to make it look like it got nicer and nicer. So it would be cool to have. So having building plans to follow that too could definitely be a thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of in the Sim Settlement building kit. I remember for the wood and the corrugated metal.
Yeah.
I remember that you have stages, for the construction stage, where you have your wood plank. It's a frame. Then there is a new plank. Then the wood it's done.
Yeah.
So you can really show that. It's really great. I like it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna get to some questions. I've fallen behind once again. Let's see. Choo-Choo 1, how goes the big HQ update? Choo-Choo, I mentioned this earlier when we were doing the tutorial quest. Is that my current goal is to get the big HQ update end of May or beginning of June, and I hope to have the add-on toolkit for it available either immediately or shortly after, because I think it would be cool to have any of you who are in in high school or college who are going to have the summer off to have a new toolkit to play with. I think that would be awesome. All of us who are afraid of large amounts of sunlight could have something to do while we hide inside and enjoy our AC. Let's see, Nick Carter, do you have a settlement at Spectacle Island? If so, can we see it? There is a Spectacle Island design in. There are 2 of them available that I have installed right now for city plans. If you mean, have I built one yet? No, I've only built a couple of settlements. This is the only settlement that I built manually. All the rest of them I've just been plopping city plans down in, and I don't think I've even taken Spectacle in this save. Excuse me. Oh, got non-stop pickups here. Question WI, I have all of the pop-up plots in my inventory. Can I put them in the city desk or workbench? The pop-up plots. I don't know what you're talking about there. If you want to clarify that, I'm not sure what you mean. If you mean like the building plans, like they're still stuck in your inventory, that's strange. That should not happen. Discmaster, I remember way back in the day when I tried to make a custom level for OG Doom. Yeah, I also have modded those old games. I think Quake 3 was the first game I got really into modding, where I was joining big mod teams and stuff, but I remember tinkering with all those as well. It was fun trying to mess with old mod tools back then. That's ages ago. Doom 1, man.
Yeah.
That's so long ago. That feels like...
Oh god. Feel old now.
Quester WI, one last thing. Simon's spoken dialogue does not match what is displayed when you rescue his sister. Yeah, I've seen that. There's a lot of CPD bugs. It's probably gonna be like a patch, and the patch name is gonna be all about CPD when I finally dive in, because I need to go do a deep dive on CPD, understand exactly what the two folks who are involved in the design were doing, and then I have to check in with the writer and make sure that I don't break any of their intentions. So it's gonna be a big task for me, and that is why it hasn't happened yet, because it's like I said earlier, of when I know that a task is gonna take 6-7 hours just to get my head around it, then I tend to delay that until I have one of those sessions. And this 6-hour session of modding for me is a rare sight anymore. Tends to be if I'm gonna end up with one maybe this Monday, because my wife and kids are going to be on a little trip, so it's oh, okay, all of a sudden I can sit down and grind it out. But otherwise it's tough to get those long sessions, and lately I've been using those long sessions to code, because porting forward Conqueror to SS2 has turned out to be a much bigger challenge than I anticipated. So I have to really nose to the grindstone. Part of that is because I'm trying to solve all those problems you guys presented to me with Conqueror. I want to come out of the gate with a better first impression. So all those things you guys find frustrating about Conqueror, I want to make sure that we smooth out a lot of those rough edges for people who never played it, because there's a lot of people who were so turned off by Conqueror being advertised as a raider thing that they never touched it. And I think that's sad, because there's some really fun gameplay mechanics we stumbled upon with that. Let's see, Mythor, get the bunker shelter spaces. I don't know what that's about anymore. Apologies. So if you want to try reposting, no. Cultify. Hi, Kingath. Hello, Cultify. Choo-Choo1 was kicking around an idea for a new plot subclass, high-tech residential, for things like institute or pre-war type housing. Is that something that would interest you? I do want to add a couple more residential. The one idea I had so far was robot housing, but yeah, I would like to have more options for residential. That's the one plot type that is getting left in the dirt. With Marshall doesn't have a ton right now, but with 3.0, it's going to be one of the more busy plot types, and that's going to leave residential as being the sad left out kid who's got nothing. So some new toys. My issue now with adding plot subclasses is I feel obligated to at least ship with one building plan for every class, and space is so tight now because we're trying to fit on Xbox. So we've got the team's been tasked with finding 500 megs of space in 1 and 2. We can move to extended, and that is it's a lot. It's a very difficult task. So building plans, they take up a few megs each, so they're a tough one to swallow there. But we'll see. I would love to do residential, but it might end up being one of those things where we add the subclasses in, and then the unlocks only trigger if you have an add-on pack that supports them. That could be a way we do it. Let's see, Choo-Choo1. How excited are you that Masters kicks off in just hours? Yeah, I love Masters. Those of you guys who don't know, the Masters contest starts tomorrow. For everybody, the settlement gets unintentionally revealed as soon as I update the City Plan Contest Assistant mod, and then it gets officially announced when I release my news video, which tends to be either at 9 o'clock at night or sometime in the middle of the day, depending on how my schedule is. So sometime tomorrow afternoon, everybody who's invited to the Masters could technically get started on it. And the Masters is basically the City Plan Contest on steroids. So everybody gets invite only to people who have competed in the past, so they know what they're getting into. It's judged a little more harshly, but my favorite part about it is the prize we do for the finalists, where we actually take the story that they've created for their settlement and we turn it into a video. Those are so much fun. If you guys want to see some of them, they're the last 2 seasons we did them. They're professionally narrated. It's just fun little tour videos and talk about the settlement. and those are on my channel. Just search for Masters and you should be able to find them. So I'm very excited. And some of the stuff people end up doing with their designs blow my mind, especially the first year when we did Spectacle Island. Holy crap. People can do crazy stuff with that place with the build limit. This year, the place doesn't have quite the extreme build limit as Spectacle, so people will have to be a little more tame, but still, I'm sure people are going to blow my mind, as they always do. Let's see here. Karbach, thank you for the donation. More plots, he says. I think that's a message for you, Foxel. So maybe I should toss that $20 your way to say thank you for making more plots. Let's see here. Mythor. Also, Sim Settlements isn't compatible with Sim Settlements 2, what King Bass playing at the moment. Yes, that is correct. If you are new to Sim Settlements, you should skip Sim Settlements 1 and go to 2. That is my opinion. The only reason to play SS1 anymore is if you really want Conqueror, or if you don't enjoy, like, I could see an argument for Xbox players to stick with Sim Settlements 1, because you don't have the space for SS2. SS2 is much bigger. But there are some people who just like hate the gameplay changes. I know there's a small contingent of people who continue to just play SS1 because they don't like the gameplay changes we did at SS2. The core mechanics of it are the same though. Is you put down a little plot, and the settlers will build stuff that matches the type of plot you choose. Like, that's the core conceit of it. And then you periodically come back and see what they built. And like, that loop is still in place from SS1, SS2. Just we like dialed it to 11. We added a lot more bells and whistles, a lot more depth to it. But you can completely ignore all that depth and just play it like SS1, which was put plots on the ground and watch them go. There's when you first activate the holotape from SS2, there's you'll be prompted to choose if you're new or not, and then if you're returning, it'll ask you, do you want it automated to play like a city simulator or play hardcore mode? If you just choose automated, you can play it as simple as that. Just drop plots on the ground and watch what happens. Carbox, so happy to hear you moving Conk to SS2. Me too. I am really excited to get that stuff. I have a let me see if I don't have it open now. I was gonna say I have a document I could show you guys of the task that's under my. I took our and Foxel, I'm sure you've done this if you got a coding background. I started doing like a class diagram of what makes Conqueror tick, and oh my god, is it monstrous. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta start just one class at a time porting this over. And it's just hundreds of functions I gotta figure out how to rework for SS2. Let's see here. Mythor. Fallout 76 bunker shelter space to build in if you're looking to use up those atoms. Oh, yeah. I started doing that, and then, like, nobody sees my bunker, so I don't care. Like, I got bored of it. Like, if it weren't for the daily quests to visit other people's bunkers, and then, like, I don't know. What about, did you ever spend much time in them, Foxel, because that was the only time I would ever visit anybody else's, would be like, oh, I got the daily for it, but then I would just poke my head in and then leave. I didn't, unless they went elaborate with it. Like, once in a while you get somebody who goes nuts with their bunkers, but most of the time I just would like pop in and be like, oh yeah, it looks about like mine, and then I'd leave.
It depends. If I see that there is some love with the camps, the outside structure, I'm thinking, okay, this is a lot, so maybe it's for roleplay, the bunker. Yeah. And sometimes I'm really surprised. It's really nice crafted, and I'm like, oh my god, how they do that? But something that I feel really missing with the 76 bunkers, you don't have NPCs. Yeah, I get it that every NPC is instanced by the game, but maybe if you could just instance them when you enter the bunker, like a Schrodinger cat. Right. I mean, you do a vault in your bunker, but you have no one here inside.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know why they don't come up with a way to do it, or like don't. Yeah, I don't know how they could do it to eliminate the cost of it. Like, I guess, well, the way they would have to do it would just be like everybody has the same people, right? It would just be like kind of like how we all have the same, those non-companion companions. Like, everybody's, we have like those 7 or 8 that are. Well, there's a lot more than that now because you could unlock them from the game boards. Those like ones that just have a few dialogue lines. But if everybody could just put as many of those as they want in their thing, it's not like Bethesda needs extra assets or extra faces, right? They're going to have to load those faces anyway. So just let us put all those companion guys living in our bunker. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and also you have instanced non-companion characters in the 76 game. There is some places when you have settlers that are wandering and Brotherhood of Steed patrols. So I remember that in 76 I put a camp near Brotherhood of Steel patrol that
Yeah.
is always come there. So it's as if I had NPCs.
Nice.
So they could do it, but I don't know why they don't do it for the shelter. But too sad.
I don't know.
A lot of wasted opportunity.
Maybe something will change now that they've got that third party company getting involved with making content. Maybe they'll start to be able to expand some of that. I know a lot of their weird design decisions are because of engine limitations, but some of them are probably just lack of manpower to actually implement it. Because I would imagine what they're probably going for low hanging fruit of like, you know, it's real easy, involves one person to like add a new power armor skin, right? Just one artist can do that. They don't have to spend a lot of money or R&D. You know, like that's one of the things that I'm learning the more. I mean, I have known this from software dev, but it's very apparent with complex game dev is, you know, making one small tweak to the system can have like all sorts of unintended consequences down the line. And so like, you know, for them to focus on simple stuff means they don't have to put everything back through Q&A, right? So I would think that that's why a lot of their effort and a lot of their new releases is just like kind of simple content, because it's like the cost to develop new content is a lot more than you'd think. It's not just, you know, develop this new system. It's like, develop this new system, now go back through with an entire QA squad and comb through every other system and make sure you didn't unintentionally F it up. So there's like a lot, and that takes time, like even beyond cost. You can only work so fast to do that.
Yeah, they really feel like they lacked people because most of the content was copy-paste, you know, so but maybe it would change with the new company that will help them to produce content. I've read the news about that.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
I'm excited to see what those expeditions are going to be. Like, going to the pit seems cool.
Yeah, there were rumors that they will also touch common places like Far Harbor, Nuka World, and Commonwealth. I was surprised. So I guess we'll have to see, but maybe it's a good surprise. Don't know.
Yeah, that could be interesting, especially, you know, seeing those places 200 years before we see them in the other games. They can take some liberties with the design and like seeing like a Diamond City right immediately after the war, and it's like it could be, you know, probably feel much more like a refugee camp than like an established little city. Like, it could be interesting.
Yeah, more closer to the stadium, actually. Maybe some baseball team around. I don't know.
Yeah, some of the players still there. Yeah, that'd be cool.
It could be alive, actually.
Let's see here. 221, any luck getting in touch with VAs from the original Conqueror? So, like, we're in contact with a lot of them. It's just there are a couple who it's going to be a very big ask to get them back, so that's why we don't, like, I'm treating Conqueror as like I hope one day we can pull it off, but and I've got some little bit of work going on in the background to hope potentially facilitate that one day, but I'm not worried about the voice actor part yet, because there's still too many other steps before we won't have to worry about that. So I will say we are in touch with all of the VAs in some form or another, but some of them, getting them involved with the project will be a very tall order. That's all I can say about that without talking personal information for some people. Carvak, in Fallout 76, I have a full-on vault where I link more of the vaults together, and it looks like it's empty on purpose. I do like that part of the that was really a really cool thing they did with the bunker system that I've seen in a couple of fantastically done bunkers, is where you can put the door from one bunker space into the next. Like, that's really cool. That was a really good idea they did. So you just link a bunch of interior cells together. Have you played around with that? I never bothered with that in mine. I didn't get enough into the building there with the bunkers to bother, but have you done much with that, Foxel, of connecting multiple of your bunkers together?
Yeah, I've done that because I tried to do Brother of Steel base, and I played with the mannequins, you know, the when you can it's the good word, mannequins. Let me check. You know, where you can
show off your armor and stuff.
Yeah. So what I did was adding windows, and I put the mannequin behind to make it as if it was a real person. So they were in the outfits, you know, the Brother of Steel outfit. There are a helmet, and so if you don't look too much, you think, okay, it's a real person. So it's okay, because you don't have real person. You don't even have your companion in the bunker, which is sad, I think.
Yeah. You know what they could
But
do
yeah.
to, you know what they could do with that? Because those mannequins in the creation engine, those mannequins are always actually NPCs, right? Like that's been the
Oh, really?
case. Yeah, that's been the case for as long as they've been doing it. Like in Skyrim, they're actually NPCs. In Fallout 4, the DLC, they're NPCs. Is they should let you pose them, like let you choose an idle pose to give your mannequin, because then you could pull it off a little more, right? You could fake the illusion a little bit, set up all your mannequins, and then like apply an idle to them so that they're in a pose, and then you could pull off your vision of having somewhat realistic looking people.
Yeah, because they're just looking at you right now. With you could have a workshop just be in front of it, so it could look like that they're working or something.
Right,
but, yeah.
right. You see their head
Poses,
peeking
yeah.
over. So Discmaster, it would be nice to go back and fix existing systems, but I'm a bit jaded here. Let's see. Jason Lokrantz, what were your thoughts on the Dragonflight announcement? I was severely underwhelmed. You're talking about Dragonflight's the new World of Warcraft expansion, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm done. I'm 100% done with World of Warcraft. None of it excites me anymore. The last time I went back to it, what was the one I played? Warlords of Draenor, and they had that system that just felt like a mobile game, and I was like, nope, not doing that. And then like now they're like getting into such weird stuff with the story that I just like, it's so disconnected that I don't care anymore. Like to me, I know now they're getting, trying to bring back to the dragons, but like, the Shadowlands stuff I just didn't care about. Even when they went back to the what was the expansion before that where you could be, and I can't even think of their name anymore. It's been so long since I played it. What were the character, the Demon Hunter, when you could do the Demon Hunter class, that expansion? I just didn't care because I never loved the Dark Portal expansion. I think the only thing that would ever get me excited to go back to that world again would if they like went back to like the old school story stuff of like, I just want like, and I want like Thrall and Jaina Proudmoore. Give me the Warcraft 3 story stuff. That's what I cared about, and all this other modern stuff it's too far. I'm too far removed from it anymore. So yeah, none of that excites me anymore. Oscar Fry, I just finished the FO4 Vault 88 quest. Is there a city plan for Vault 88? I think we have one in the base mod. There are definitely ones that others have released. There is one in Rise of the Commonwealth that's incredibly detailed. It's the biggest city plan we did. It took us, I think there were 8 of us who contributed to that city plan. We broke the vault into sections, and then each person on the team designed one themselves. My section I think I have 2 sections, and I cheated. So you will know my sections because they are copied from existing parts in the vanilla world in our Vault 88 design, because I just didn't have time to do I was committed in my head. I was like, I'm gonna do this, and then when it came, rubber hit the road, it's like I'm in charge of so many other things, I don't have time. So then I figured out how to take chunks of the game world and turn them into city plan pieces. So like I took a chunk of Saugus Ironworks, and that's in our Vault 88 build, and then a chunk of some vault that I turned into like a nuclear facility. So there's so if you want to use our Rise of the Commonwealth Vault 88 plan, it's quite it's a quite interesting design of like what happens if you combine the design practices of a bunch of different artists. I think it came out really cool though. I should have asked you, Foxel. Are you an MMO guy? Do you play other than Fallout 76? Have you gotten into any? Did you ever get into World of Warcraft or Elder Scrolls Online or any of those?
Guild Wars.
Guild Wars. Okay, the original or 2? I think I lost you.
The past, the first one.
Yeah, the first one. I played a bit of the first one. I hear the second is still going strong.
Not so much with the MMO original. It was back a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm just going to move my computer, so I'll just be right back in 1 minute.
Okay, no problem.
My battery is like, okay.
No problem.
Just be right back.
Let's see here. Nick Carter, will ROTC get an update soon? So, Nick, I actually installed ROTC in this playthrough now, so I can start using those city plans. I don't know what the problem why there's all this, there's a lot of complaints, and like the community, like the tribal knowledge is that ROTC for us is bad. I don't know what the issues are. So I've just installed it myself so I can find out what the problem is. So there's no updates planned because I don't know what needs to be updated. The only thing I'm aware of that is busted in ROTC is the power grids for the earlier levels. And it's not the power grids that are broken, it's the wiring just doesn't work for the earlier levels. But Other than that, as far as I know, there are no problems with it. So I've been waiting for people, like if people report the specific issues they have with ROTC, I can start looking into them. Updating city plan packs is unfortunately nightmare territory right now. We don't have a good system for it, but Pra, who's our team Xedit scripter, has mentioned he could do some stuff to help us with that, of like making city plan packs. And I presume for updating them as well. So eventually, but first I have to discover what the problems are. So other than the power grid, to me is not the end of the world, because we can do faux powered, and yeah, I'll show you guys this again. While we're waiting for Foxel to come back. I showed you guys this last stream, but no reason not to show it again. I have for Friday, so in like less than, well, we'll say in 2 days, because I don't know what time I'll put it out. On Friday, we will have access to some new tools and workshop frameworks. So I'm going to show you them now. So we can do destroy all the wires. So we'll go ahead and run this. Yes, I promise not to exit workshop mode. So we're going to go ahead and scrap all these wires here. Oh, Foxel, I think you're back. Let's see, we got to let it collect all the wires first. But we have an auto wiring system we're going to have in Workshop Framework for PC players. So when the Rise of the Commonwealth city plan installs and you see a bunch of disconnected wires, you'll be able to fix it with just a couple button clicks. I don't know if I have the correct version installed on this playthrough right at the moment, but anyway, it's going to try if it works. So you will Friday be able to auto wire a settlement. It actually, I think I just crashed the game, or my computer crashed. Let's see. Can you hear me, Foxel?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, just the game crashed. Okay, cool. So,
okay.
Of course it did while I'm trying to show off a feature. But anyway, so those problems with the biggest problem I know of ROTC is the wiring issue. So if there's more, I'd love to know about the issues. Let's see here. So hey, do you think the future CPD updates will be compatible on existing saves? Yeah, whenever I that's one of the things that makes quest updates a little bit slower, is I have to make sure that they're not just fixed, but that existing saves, I figure out what went off the rails so that I can patch in a solution as well. So that like we have a whole block we have a set of code for every quest. Every quest is built on a framework that checks on startup for your version to increase, and we can catch that hook and inject patches. So like all of SS2 is designed to be updated on existing saves. That is very important to me. Gavman, I have the build zone for Longfell's removed at level 1 for OTC. See, I tested that the other day, Gavman, and the build zone was fine. Oh, it's only at level 1? So not at level, or are you talking level 0, like the foundation? Because I tested the foundation with ROTC, and the build zone was there. Like I just did this in the last 6 days, because somebody had reported on our Git that was the case. But maybe it's at level 1, and that's why I didn't see it happening. I just tested the foundation level. Let's see. Rex Parada, will the plot snapping get fixed soon? What is the issue with plot snapping? I am not aware of that. Let's see here. Are you aware of any plot snapping issue, Foxel? I don't know what he's referring to.
Plot snapping?
What? They don't snap?
Not that I'm aware of, but if you mean the foundation that don't snap, right?
That's what I'm asking. I don't know. He just said, will the plot snapping get fixed soon? I was like, I didn't know there was an issue with plot snapping, because like they snap to each other, right? Like you can see this he's snapping away.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's snapping, so that's working. So maybe it's the non-foundation ones. I use the foundation ones 90% of the time.
Yeah, I do tend to use the foundation.
Gavman. Okay, so it's after level 0 that it breaks. Interesting. Okay, I'll have to go test that. I think I still have the save where I was doing Longfellow, so hopefully I kept it so that I can test. Yeah, Longfellow test. Cool. So I can test that tomorrow and figure out if I can see what's wrong with it, because I closed that bug report. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I have it fixed. Because yeah, that's a bad bug. That it definitely needs to go away. Scrapping build zones, no good.
Oh yeah. For Longfellow, yeah, I did experience it 2 days ago. So yeah, I'm like, oh, I can't use the workshop. Why?
Yeah, the build zone ended up in the scrap profile somehow at some point, and so, like, I'm pretty sure we fixed the scrap profiles, but must have not. I bet I updated only the level 0, not realizing that it was also in the levels as well. So that's a. But yeah, if there's more issues like that with our OTC, that I can fix relatively easy. It sucks to do, but I can do it. because it's important enough. But if it's just like I don't bother fixing floating items because that's too much work. But like fixing the build zones, I basically have to like comb through the city plan. And the city plan is really just a list of items and coordinates. And so like I have to just find all the entries that are the build zones and just delete those out of the city plan record. So that can be done relatively painlessly. Other than I have to go through, for some of those plans, like the level 3 plans, there's like 3,000 items in them. So coming through the list of 3,000 items, and I can't do it with like a find replace search. I have to just manually scroll through and find them. I'm willing to do that because I want you guys to have your build zones. Let's see. Rex brought up trying to snap plots next to each other. Put one down and the next one won't snap. Snaps to everything but where I want it. Let's test that. I don't recall seeing that. Maybe it's these ones are the problem because you just saw they snap together. But yeah, see, they're snapping. So, I mean, I guess one of the issues that I know can occur with these is once the plots start building, if the building plan itself overlaps, like the building structure overlaps the area where the snap points are, then they get blocked, and there's nothing I can do about that. That's just going to be a perpetual. That's an engine level issue. So that cannot be fixed, unfortunately. Carva, going through a list of build items on one of my plans would drive you crazy. Yeah, no, thank you. Surik, important question: who is your least favorite member of the SS2 team? Me. I am my the least favorite member. Rex brought it together. Yeah, see, I can snap them together, so I don't know what the deal is. Choo-choo one, if I had a request for something for a workshop framework, where would I put it? Just DM me, Choo-choo. Like, cause I only check the workshop framework Git like once in a great while. It's hard enough to keep up with the SS2 ones. So the workshop framework, like I just went through and cleared out all the tickets that have been sitting there for a year, a couple days ago. So I'm not going to go back again for another year, for suggestions and stuff. So yeah, just DM them to me. I know you have played with the workshop framework stuff. And you have actually made mods using it, so you have my ear. So Hawaii, do you know if the level 1 caravan plots functionality replaced the vanilla provisioner mechanic? It emulates it, so the caravan plots do the same thing as the vanilla, and then they add also the SS2 specific caravan stuff, like sharing the virtual resources. Yeah, and it looks like my power grid blew up again, so I definitely have... I need to dig in to find out why my power grid keeps going. It's got to be like one of my building plans has some funky item that's causing problems, but this settlement has its grid nuked again, so I gotta get that fixed. But yeah, you should be able to emulate the provisioner stuff. All right, well, Foxel, I know it's super early in the morning. You probably got to get your day started here. Thank you for joining me this afternoon and chatting, or this morning rather, and chatting. And I look forward to seeing more of your updates for Rags Riches. I like the sound of what you're doing with it, and hopefully one day we see you doing some city plans too, and some more stuff to your collection of released content.
Yeah, thanks. It was nice chatting out, and yeah, can't wait to see the next for settlement. Yeah. Okay, good.
Right on.
So yeah, it's I'm about to have my day started actually. So yeah. I hope you have a nice end of the... Is it afternoon still? I don't know.
No, it's late at night. It's my bedtime. So I'm about to crash. That's why I'm like realizing like you probably need to get your day started, and I need to go to bed. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you everybody who donated super chats tonight. Really, really appreciate it. We should be back next Wednesday. I have guests for the next like 3 or 4 weeks lined up. So you guys can build up a little tolerance again before you have to deal with me rambling to myself. You get a break from that. So thanks again, Foxel. Thank you, everybody. I will catch you all next Wednesday.
Okay, bonne soirée, like they say.